Hey, pop stars, welcome to another episode or edition. Which sounds better, episode or edition? I don't know. Of the Popcorn Rewind. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, Tammy, how have you been lately?
Living and learning, living and
They say life is the best teacher you will ever have. Think if
yeah.
we ever get to the point where we stop learning and growing, no matter how old we are or young we are, then I think that we kind of defeated the purpose, if
I don't
that
know. I
makes
think a
sense.
lot of people are defeating the purpose.
A lot of people are defeating the purpose and out. How do I say this without jinxing our karma? Well, someone won the damn near $2 billion lotto anyway. So let me just say it. Some people are outliving their usefulness.
Yes, very much so. Yes. Let's clock that T. Let's clock that T.
I guess we'll get started with the dude. And last week was almost one of the best weekends. It was almost I think most people thinks it would be a national mourning, but they underestimate the American people. I think it would be a celebration. In it to how the Irish felt when Queenie died.
Oh, I didn't. Yes. Yes. I didn't even think of that. How they were at their football games and stuff. Yes, very much
And
so.
we almost there were rumors that the boy that the dude was on his he was on his way out, and there's still rumors that he has a congenital heart disease or heart failure and that he might have an LVAD or something. We'll never know. He's a fucking walking corpse, and we all know that, but they are doing their best to keep that man alive because they know that's the only way they can continue to get away with this bullshit. We see you, Stephen Miller. I'm talking to you. And because they know that Vance doesn't have the backing or the support of the MAGA,
He
who
has the money, but he doesn't have MAGA
he doesn't have MAGA. He also doesn't have the political capital with the Congress.
because he doesn't have MAGA.
Yeah. And so since he doesn't have that political capital, and he wasn't a congressman very long, he was what, a senator for he didn't even serve out his full term in
Yeah,
Senate.
it was only one term that he was there.
So, yeah. So they know that they would not be able to get away with all the bullshit they've gotten away with Vance.
Mhm.
Anyway, so thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers.
At this point, Imma take both out and just be like, "Just let me know."
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
my response, "Let me know."
but so speaking of MAGA, the one thing that they are not letting go, they are like that rabid dog with that red meat is the Epstein. And so, Congress, Keebler, Elfie, as I like to call him, he suspended Congress or he sent them home early during the summer so he could avoid the Epstein because he thought it would go away. They thought, all the other fuckery would outshine that fuckery.
Mhm.
And it's going to take a lot to outshine that fuckery. So he got on TV the other night in all his Keebler elfness, and I'm sorry, Keebler, and he said that your boy was a snitch, basically, and that he was an informant for the FBI. So that's why him and Epstein were so close, is because Cheeto was like, Donnie Brasco or some shit.
The same man who has already been found liable for sexual assault?
And the same man who was talking about, him and Epstein were at a war over the girls because Epstein was coming into Mar-a-Lago taking the girls and he couldn't have them because they were his girls but all of that was under the guise of him being a snitch. So, and then the dude who I forgot, he works at the DOJ or some department of some shit. And he was on a hot mic talking about how they are and when they release them, because everything they released, there was a 37,000 page dump, but it was
That was
already
basically nothing. It was
yeah,
basically nothing.
it was already shit that had been released to the public.
Huh?
So, when they do release the files, it's gonna be hella redactions because they already said they're taking out now what they're trying to do is go through and take out all the Republicans, and
The
they are just
Democrats.
going to leave the Democrats in or the liberals or the people they don't like. And the Democrats are saying, "Okay, fuck it. If they were on the Epstein files, they need to go down." So it doesn't have the same adverse reaction to us. We're like, "Okay, who gives a shit if you were
Mhm.
trying to diddle kids. If you were a fucking pedophile, you need to go down. We don't care who
Yeah.
you are. We don't care what you did or any of that kind of shit. So it's like, we'll see what happens. And he admitted that I think her name is Ghislaine Maxwell, however you say that bitch's name.
Mhm.
He admitted also on this hot mic that the reason they moved her to a really cushy Club Fed here in Texas is so she would keep her mouth shut. So I think the only reason he hasn't fully pardoned her, is because he knows that would be more blowback, and
Than he
that
may
would
want.
than they want and that they can deal with because, again, everything they've tried throwing at this is not going away. And
Mhm.
I like to try to give credit where credit is due. There's one Republican who is trying to stand 10 toes down on this, and that is, I can't remember if he's a senator or if he's a member of the House, but his name is Massey, and he's a Republican, and he and Trump have exchanged words. He, of course, is not getting a whole lot of support publicly. Like, I love him and I
Behind the
hate him.
scenes, they're always supporting this kinda stuff, but they'll never come out publicly and say it.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, they all know that this is a shit show and that this is fuckery and that they fucked up. But publicly, they stand 10 toes down. They stick together, unlike Democrats. And so I said in my notes, I just want to see how long before he caves, or how long before someone steps up and does the right thing and joins him. And I think my money is on him caving first. That's just how little faith I have in him.
I will say the one thing that I admire about Republicans is even when they know they're wrong, you ain't gonna know about it. They can be
Mm-mm.
doing infighting and everything. Like Democrats are always public about their infighting. Like you know that they're never on the same page. That's their major problem. We talk about it all the time. But, when it comes to Republicans, oh, it's one band, one sound. One band, and that one little you have 1 or 2 people that wanna try to, sidestep, and they be looking at them like, "Over here, we one band, one sound. We don't know who you are. You must be from the Brown College." Like, "Mm-mm, 'cause you not from over here where we at." And so, with this, I don't think it's gonna go away. I don't. I think that I was talking to my mom the other day, and I was like, the trauma just keeps coming, but it's the fact that they are okay with being pure evil.
Mhm.
Like, they don't see a problem with, identifying themselves as horrible human beings.
Not at all.
And so because they don't have an issue with that, it lets you know that the reason why is because their supporters don't have an issue with them being horrible human beings. Like they love it. Like they want to have that permission to be as horrible as they can be. And so I just hope that they continue on it. I don't think at this point, I think why the Epstein files is still out there is because you don't have it being talked about as much in mainstream media as it was during the summer, but everywhere else, they're continuing to talk about it. So people who just mainly focus on watching mainstream media and that's how they get their news, they're thinking that nobody's talking about the Epstein files, like, it's just completely gone, it's completely out of the conversation. But when you really, like, start to go on social media, when you just start really listening to, let's say, like, I follow a lot of independent news, channels, they're still talking about it, like, it's still being mentioned on a regular basis, and that is the reason why Republicans are now trying to figure out a way to get around it, because it's dying in mainstream because y'all control mainstream media, but it's not dying when it comes to independent news, where more and more people are turning to independent news because of how biased mainstream media is becoming. Release it, and then we have the conversation about the fact that there is no way that there are not more Republicans on that list than Democrats. If there are more Democrats on that list than Republicans, then y'all tampered with that report. Like, you fully tampered with that report.
And we already know that they are. And I also think that one of the reasons it's not going away is because so many of his acolytes and sycophants, like Brunchino, have spent so much time all of the last 4 years, 5 years, because this is it was one of the things that they were able to cover up during his first election, or in his
Yes.
first term. And I think they thought that after Epstein died,
Mhm.
and not that he let me put it this way, he
Or
died,
allies.
but after he killed himself, I think they thought it would go away, especially after they prosecuted and convicted Maxwell, and it never did, and I think Trump and Barr and all of them thought that that would be enough, and it wasn't. And then you have all these people spending the last, what, 6, 7 years telling you that the Epstein files, like, that was that gosh, that is their JFK, who shot JFK. That is the MAGA's big conspiracy theory, because they've been told all this time that all these horrible people were in the Epstein files, and he even ran on it now. His stupid sons have said, "Release the files, release the files." There's this whole big conspiracy about why Biden didn't release the files and all this shit. And so you can't now, you're in charge, you can't hunter it to death, okay?
Yeah.
So we've talked about all that. So it won't go away because you and your people would not let it go away. And it was one of the main things that you promised. And I think you haven't really delivered. If people are being honest, your people, you haven't delivered on any of your other promises besides to be a dictator from day one.
Mhm.
Then that's the one thing that they can hold on to, and you're letting them down with that. Anyway, speaking real quick, you saw that they turned the rose garden that they went and repaved over after Dr. Biden tried to fix it up again and get it back to being an actual rose garden. They paved over again and turned it into a tacky patio like he has at Mar-a-Lago, and then this weekend they opened Club Rose Garden. What the fuck? Like, I mean,
Okay. So this goes back to what the 92% was saying when we said that he is you put him back in and he's going to live his life at the White House the same way that he lived his life at Mar-a-Lago. And that's exactly what he's doing. He has a $200 million ballroom that they're building for him.
in a
That's
place where you
gold.
can't make permanent changes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's gold infused, right? That's gold infused. Then putting the patio furniture out there and having people come, it's to make money. It's the biggest grift that the world has ever seen. The biggest grift that the world, I feel like even dictators are not like this grifty, if that's a word, right? Like even dictators are not this grifty
They're more
on how
subtle about it.
yeah, they're more subtle about it, and they don't have this idea of, "Well, I want people to come, and I'm going to give tours of places that people are not supposed to go," right? Like, I'm just waiting for the news that he's giving tours of the, what do they call the, room where they have those secret conversations?
Oh
The
gosh.
room
The bunk, I know what you're talking about, the
Yeah,
bunk
yeah, yeah, like, having tours of the war room and
situation
having
room.
tours of the presidential bunker, like, I'm just waiting for news on that, if it hasn't already happened and they're just not reporting on it, right?
Well,
So
he's actually shut down the tours to the White House because of the construction for the ballrooms.
well, yeah, but once the construction is done on something that he shouldn't be allowed to do because we actually have laws in place, but of course he's above the law. And I laugh every time that I talk about that. I'm just like, nobody's above the law. And I'm like, yeah, there's one person who's above the law. There's one person who is above the law. Like we can never say that nobody's ever been above the law because there is one person who has been truly above the law in this country. So at the end of the day, I'm not surprised. We're just going through the trauma, and I'm just hoping that we make it out with some semblance of sanity. But the fact that it hasn't been a year yet and we're as traumatized as we are, I don't know. I don't know how we're going to make it 4 years. I don't think that. I think that he's going to make it 4 years. I think that we can have as many secret celebrations as possible and be throwing out as much, sorcery and whatever, whatever it is as possible. But at the end of the day, he's gonna survive the 4 years. And and then what we're gonna have to worry about is them changing the law if, those people still in charge, because for some reason America, we're not learning our lessons by all this shit that's going on. We're just not, yeah, we're not learning our lesson. Like, I don't
It's
know what else to say. Like, it's just ridiculous.
see him being the Tin Man. They're gonna have that motherfucker up there like the Tin Man.
No, Weekend at
Or
Bernie.
Bernie's. Weekend at Bernie's. A hybrid of the Tin Man and Weekend at Bernie's, just kinda, getting them on there. But I agree with you, and I think the reason why, and the next part kinda goes back to what you were saying about, them controlling the media and everything. So, speaking of hot mics, Zuckerberg, I guess he had Zuckerberg, Bezos, Tim Cook.
His
because
military generals?
Um, because they were there because the jobs report came out, and we are at COVID era job losses, and he could ride the high of Biden's economy for 6 months, but if you don't do anything to feed it and keep it going robustly and healthily moving along in the right direction, it's not
Mhm.
going to do that. And so it took about 6, 7 months. Yeah, about 6, 7 months, 8 months for all his bullshit to finally start catching up with us. So the jobs report, the people you are deporting are the workers. They are the foundational workers of this country. They are the backbone workers of this country. The people that you fired in the government, they are the backbone workers in the government. They are the ones who keep the country operating and functional in the doing the jobs that the country needs to do, the shit that you don't do because you have other people working at the Department of Education, all these departments who actually answer the phones and can answer the questions that you don't even begin to know anything about. So, um, unemployment is at its highest level since COVID. We are now back to being in a buyer's market for housing, which, normally would be good for the buyers, but people can't afford to buy a fucking house. Your average house is now what, 300, 330, 400 for a starter house, a fucking starter house. Okay. So you wanted people to come in, billionaires, the richest men in the world, basically to come in and tell you how great the economy is. So Zuckerberg is like, Meta spends $600 billion a year. And then he's caught on hot mic saying, I'm sorry, I didn't know what number we agreed on. So I just said that one. And it's like, so you caught on a hot mic, a live hot mic, admitting that you are lying. You're literally cooking the numbers. So and someone was saying they don't know why Tim Cook was there from Apple, he didn't have to be. Let's face it, this is a very transactional presidency, and he's proven if you don't play ball, he will do whatever he can to
To
make your life
destroy
a
you.
living hell.
Yeah.
And with Congress not doing its job, sucking his mushroom,
Mhm.
and then SCOTUS licking his ass, it's like, where are you gonna find some reprieve?
He's getting it from the front and the back,
I mean,
hours.
so it is just like, where do you go from here? And so, on one hand, it is disappointing to see people you know better bend at the knee, but on the other
Mhm.
hand, you understand the reality of the situation and why they are doing it. So, the jobs suck, economy suck, grocery prices are going up. But the one thing I've noticed, let me knock on wood, that has not gone up, and the one thing that has stayed steady amazingly through all of this, and I think he learned his lesson the first time, someone gas.
So when you said that, I was thinking gas prices because the gas prices, from what I've seen,
Steadier than a motherfucker.
haven't really fluctuate at all.
Like, during his first presidency, I remember and we live in Texas, we'll say that because we know prices in Texas are for a lot of basic things, your everyday staples tend to be lower than in other parts of the country.
Mhm.
So, I remember his first go around, almost got up to 4 fucking dollars a gallon, which is a lot for us here in Texas. But now those bitches are
Steady,
steady.
steady,
And I'm
you know?
like,
You right. Yeah, yeah, and I I do think it's a lesson on you can't hit us there, but I also think the reason why they're not hitting us with the gas is because 'cause they're gonna hit us with the groceries. So at least one of our basic necessities is always going to be hit. Last time it was gas prices because at least in Texas, you need a vehicle. Like you need because public transportation don't run where it needs to run for you to not need a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. But, now you're gonna see it with the grocery prices, that's what they're talking about now, trying to, prepare us for the fact that grocery prices are going to go up. Like, even Walmart has come out and stated that grocery prices are going to go up even in Walmart. It's gonna go up to, like, regular supermarket prices because, of these tariffs that have been implemented, and it's slowly starting to kick our ass on,
and
it's been an ease in, and I feel like they're easing in, and at the last minute, they're gonna drop it all at once.
yeah, like the tariffs have taken effect. And did you, speaking of Walmart, like that big old, I don't drink coffee, so I will admit that. But I always, forgive me, I'm not, I guess my bougie is about to come out. 'kay? I'm not a coffee drinker. I only go by what my mom drink and my friends drink. I don't know too many people. I remember my granny drinking Folgers, so I don't know if Folgers is still the creme and I remember back in the day when I was little, it used to be because they didn't have all these coffee choices.
Mhm.
But so when I see Folgers, I'm thinking, to me, that's like almost rot gut liquor. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend. Okay.
Mm.
I told you my bougie was about to come out. I prefaced that. But that big thing of Folgers, that like 52-ounce like jug that you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you're a Folgers
No,
drink.
no,
My
no, no.
bad. I was in
I the coffee that I actually wanted to purchase was too much, and Folgers is still one of the cheapest brands,
okay.
and so that's the reason why I ultimately got it, but even that was expensive when I purchased it. So, yeah, I know
Okay.
what you're talking about.
So they showed this dude just this week, 12 the big ounce thing,
Mhm.
$12 originally. Now that bitch is like 26 for same size. And it's because the idea that they're selling you that A, we're not gonna pay the tariffs is a lie. B, that all the shit that he's putting tariffs on we can grow or make here in the US is also a fucking lie. And that's why they want you to stay uneducated. So when they lie to you, it sounds good. But, that's why the prices are going up, and I'm like, "Holy shit." So, if that Folgers is that much, then imagine just how much the other coffees are. Because now there are a whole bunch of coffees out there, so I'm just like, "Wow." And I was like, "Well, I'm glad I don't drink coffee because 'cause I'd have to go on detox or
Yeah.
something." That shit.
And I tell people, I said, I've been a caffeine addict since college, and I've tried to like ease myself off of drinking coffee. And you go through withdrawal because that's caffeine, is an addictive thing. And so I don't drink it as much as I used to. Like I can now go like 1 or 2 days without it, but that third day, it hits me. Like my body will let me know, like, "Hey, we haven't had caffeine in 2 days. Like, what you doing? Like, what like, give me my coffee immediately." It's really, really, really hard. I just always say, like, I'd rather be addicted to caffeine than hard drugs. So, I'll keep my addiction of caffeine over the hard drugs that people be doing, because mine isn't as expensive as the hard drugs, okay?
Yeah.
And that's shameful because, people be doing some crazy stuff for those drugs, okay? But yeah, like I know what you're talking about, like going to the store. Like I said, like I would buy other brands. And when I went to Sam's Club the other day and I'm like looking at all the other brands that I could purchase, and Folgers was like one of the cheapest ones that I recognized. There was ones that were cheaper, but I didn't recognize the name. But I recognized Folgers because growing up, like, the Folgers commercials and everything like that.
Just
So
in your cup.
yeah. And so I was just like, "Okay, well, I'll just get Folgers and let's see how it goes." So that's currently what, I'm drinking. Yeah, prices have definitely gone up. It's also worse when you eat, like I wanna say, like, when you try to not necessarily eat healthy, but when you try to stick to certain brands. Like, I'm a brand loyalist. If I know I like something, I'm gonna continue to buy that. Like, I have a certain brand of bread that I purchase every single time. I've seen the price of my bread go up, and, I'm just like, "Ooh, I'm gonna continue to buy it until I can, and then I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do." But I see that with a lot of, like, brand foods that, I purchase, and people be like, "Oh, just buy the store brand." And I'd be like, "It's not the same. It's the same item, but it's not the same taste. It's just not the same experience of eating." And so, yeah, I'm just waiting for it to hit to the point where I'd be like, "Ooh, I just gonna have to buy less groceries." Like, yeah, yeah, and I'm only one person, so I could just imagine people with families.
How much
Oh,
yeah.
I know y'all going financially crazy because I'm just one person and I already see the hit. And if you got family that,
Especially
couldn't be me.
teenagers and athletes and all that
Yeah,
kind of stuff, and
couldn't be
well,
me. Couldn't
I
be
will
me. So
speaking in Texas, I will tell you, HEB is our big grocery store in Texas. They have a really good house brand, okay? I know we
yeah,
don't
I have tried theirs. It was only because I was at Sam's Club and there wasn't an HEB near me. So I just went and, purchased the Folgers. But I have tried HEB's coffee brand, and it is good. I will
yeah.
say. But
So
HEB's brands in general are actually really good
yeah,
across the board. So they
and I
do.
know I know we don't patronize this place too much anymore, but that Red Dot,
Mhm.
they have a
Yeah.
decent house brand for those of you who still patronize.
Fuck Target.
I knew that was coming. If you My experience is if you shopping at the Wally World, you might as well just stick to the name brand because Wally World's house brand.
Definitely not, but, I
If you at the Wally World, Sam's is hit or miss on some of their stuff, their Sam's brand. But if you at the Wally World, you
that's
might
bottom of the barrel cheap.
just if you at the Wally World, just go ahead and pay for the regular brand, cause baby.
I always say, wait, like, when people be like, "Wait, so," because I was a huge Tarjay fan, huge, right? You walk into Tarjay, Tarjay told you what you needed, right?
Mhm.
And
That bitch,
so
she's like, "List what?" Nuh-uh,
yeah,
why
they
you
ain't no list
disrespecting
when
me
you
like
walk in
that?
there. You walk in, you go down each aisle, and you pick up stuff as it screams your name, okay?
Mhm.
And so my friends would be like, "Wait. So you don't rock with, because we know you was a huge, like," and I was just like, "Mhm." And they were like, "But you would go to Walmart now?" I said, "Very, not frequently." But I said, "I've always known who Walmart was." Like, Walmart never hid who they were. They never pretended to be anything than what they've always been. Now, Tarjay, you
So
tricked me.
disappointing. And
You
and
tricked me. I
and
thought we
and
were friends.
Walmart
Thought we were friends.
and Walmart, I don't Walmart is I go in and I get out. You still always end up spending more than you intended, but it's not like I'm walking everywhere. I'm just going in, I'm getting out. So if it's
You go
something,
exactly where you need to go.
yeah, that's a place where it's like, "Oh, I forgot I needed this." So you end up getting all but yeah. So, and then sticking with Cheeto, him and his fuckery,
Go
DC
ahead.
is
Yeah.
suing. They're finally fighting back. The National Guards, because it had been rumored that the National Guard weren't doing anything but picking up trash. And I
And they
think we talked
videotaped
about
them doing it too.
and the last time I think we talked about is like there haven't been any crime arrests. Most of the arrests there have been immigration related, right? And so the National Guard have come out and say, yeah, all we're doing is picking up trash. DC is suing. Chicago, and I'm trying to get better with editing, but we're the producers and everything here. So, but Chicago, I'm gonna have to put up this picture. Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, he ain't playing. And Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, I love them. If fuck around and find out we're people,
That's
if
them.
didn't own business were people,
That's them.
the mayor of Chicago took every fucking ice truck in the city. And it's Chicago. In the wintertime, it snows a lot. They got a lot of fucking ice trucks. He blocked every major thoroughfare in and out of that city with the ice trucks, having them move slowly. And if you get the symbolism, which it just hit me now, ice trucks to block ice, genius. And they were like, "We don't want you here. We don't need you here." So now all of a sudden, I don't know if you noticed this, the propaganda about Chicago has started. Remember, and I told y'all the gentrification problems with Chicago were real. When they first tore down Capri Green, crime was crazy because we've talked
Mhm.
about it. But now all of a sudden you hear those 57 shot in Chicago this weekend, 10 killed, like all those headlines are starting to come back up. And it's like
Mainstream media, they play their role very well.
but it's like Chicago's nowhere near the most dangerous city in the country.
It's
Let's
not.
start
It's actually, I had a conversation with some people about that, and,
I
on
think
what
it's
the most dangerous cities, not states, but most dangerous cities are, and Chicago's like 29, like, it has definitely decreased, and I said, "This ain't the '90s Chicago. This isn't early 2000 Chicago," and that's what people still think about. When they think of Chicago, they're still thinking Chirac, right? They're still thinking of how dangerous it used to be with all the crime and everything, homicides and stuff. Chicago is not '90s Chicago, and we need to get off of that thought process of thinking that when we hear Chicago, but they want us back on it though. But when we hear
mhm,
Chicago, it's not crime. The crime is not where it used to be. So we need to give Chicago the chance that it should have, being that they were able to decrease their crime to the levels that it currently is.
and Wes Moore, I love him too. Fucker, let's add him to
Or
the part.
Maryland, yeah.
He was like, I was in, he served in the military. And
Mhm.
so he was like, I'm not, and people were on him for not deploying his guard to DC. He's like, why? I'm not going to cosplay. I'm not sending them out for performative. I'm ad-libbing this part. Performative bullshit. Look,
Mhm.
I'm his anger translator, okay? The performative bullshit. He was like,
Mhm.
I am the executive in chief of Maryland and I control the National Guard and I'm not sending them out for that. So kudos to you. So we will see because Trump and his truth social. You can tell whatever the fuck is wrong though. He's feeling better because he's back to posting those stupid ass memes and shit. But he basically targeted Chicago, and I guess it's going to be the first place he deploys his new Department of fucking War. It hasn't been a fucking the Department of fucking War since what, the 1800s?
'Cause it turned into defense, because that's what we're supposed to be doing, defending
Yeah.
ourselves, not necessarily starting stuff.
And so he realized that he couldn't legally change the name. So after they took down where it says Department of Defense on the wall, they said Department of War is just a nickname. Look, his mama changed his name to the Department of Defense, and that's what I'm going to call it. I'm like, y'all are so fucking stupid. Like with all this cosplay, performative bullshit, it doesn't make you seem tougher, you know?
It
So
does to it does to their supporters who don't know what tough is.
yeah. And so Maryland, he's also looking at redistricting and redrawing the maps there.
Stop talking about it and do it.
Yeah,
And don't do what California does. I understand why California did what he did because I think that it's a great thing on him getting the people of California to show what they actually want, right? And like where America is as a whole for the population because yes, you have the small minority that are the loudest voices, but they do not speak for majority of the people who are here, no matter what people try to say. And I think that now when it comes to other states, other blue states, I don't want you following California's thing. It's great that California is doing it, but I need y'all to just do it. I need you to do what Texas did. Just
yeah,
do it.
just do it.
Yeah, just go for it. You can make it temporary, but I don't want a voting no possibility of them persuading people to vote against it.
Yeah. And then, so he wants to send a guard to New Orleans now, a blue dot in a red state. So
Yes.
he's not going to get the pushback as he would. He would get the pushback from the people of New Orleans, and I wanna see them go into the lower ninth or the upper ninth with that bullshit and see how that works out for 'em. But, that's just me, and considering that the Keebler Elf, his district is one of speaking of violence, is one of the most violent in the country,
Yes.
largest murder
With
rate in the
Louisiana being one of the most, if not the most violent state in the country.
so, one of the poorest, least educated, just and it's a red state, so
Yeah.
that's the thing. Most of the cities that have all these high crime rates are red states.
Mhm.
Missouri's jumping on the gerrymander bandwagon too, but anyway. So,
They
and
don't
I
have the
think
numbers for it though.
yeah. But think part of all this too, this strongman, this Department of War thing comes out because of the strongman convention where his besties, I think he had a falling out with his besties.
They
So
realize they don't need him anymore.
yeah. So Putin, Xi, Kim Jong crazy, and was it the dude in India? They met in India.
Well, yeah, so it's really just the main 3 ones. So China, Russia, and India, who are the main BRICS countries, they met up and then they invited North Korea to come through. And he actually came, which is very rare because it's very rare that he leaves his country. So they say it was very rare, but he
There's
gonna
not many
come
places
through.
he can go without being arrested.
You right. But he gonna come through for his 2 main allies, which is China and Russia, and so they met up to show a new world order, and people in this country who do not realize how significant it is and how detrimental it is to us that China and Russia, which are like the 2 main ones. That's the ones we focus on, like India because it's the fastest growing economy in the world, yes, because their population is continuing to grow rapidly. But just those 2, to not realize the reason why we have to build and why we have to build relationships with other countries and why even if we may not necessarily like them all the time and the deals that we have, why we have to have a positive relationship with Europe, why we have to have a positive relationship with Canada and Mexico and with these Asian countries like, South Korea and Japan. And not when you don't understand geopolitics and you don't understand that it is detrimental to our image and to the power that we hold in the world that Japan and China are enemies. Like enemies. They cannot stand each other. And yet Japan is having full on meetings with the Chinese government, like with their history. Or the fact that South Korea is having conversations with China, and they can't stand each other. Even though China has a very good relationship with North Korea, South Korea still has to, reach a handout to China. It shows the change of who is gaining power and who is losing power. Anyone who looks at us and thinks that isolation is where we need to be because it makes you feel better, American nationalism, it's not. It isn't a good that we are turning our backs on countries that need us. Like, it's to our benefit to have as many countries as possible dependent on America. And we're like, "Nah, we don't want y'all to depend on us. We ain't gonna give y'all no money except for one country," but, let's not talk about that. We're not gonna give any money or any support, and we're going to allow China to come in and put out their own ideas of imperialism because they're doing it better because they're not using force to persuade a lot of these African countries to work with them, but it's still imperialism on how they're spreading their ideology and how they're getting these African countries to have deals with them that 5, 10 years from now is going to truly benefit China more than the United States because we're still going into these countries and telling them this is what we need you to do. Like, we can't do that anymore. You can't go into these countries. They're not scared of us the way that they used to be.
And but
Like, it's not to the benefit because they're laughing at they're laughing at us.
and
And
that's what
so it yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's what
Hurts my
happened
soul.
when you said geopolitics, and the people who need to understand geopolitics are the people who are in charge of it, the people who fucking run your country.
Yeah.
And when they don't have that history, and for some reason their brain addled minds, their whatever, drug addled brains, they read something because they were bullied in school or they were told they were ugly or they saw, they're just horrible human beings and thought that
Or they
this,
learned about slavery and realized that their people from the past wasn't as great as they pretended to be.
or they thought Hitler was great for
Yeah.
whatever sociopathic reason. That's what happens when you put a bunch of dumb ass narcissistic sociopaths in charge of your country.
Mhm.
Who don't understand that, yes, we've always pretended to be isolationist, but we've never truly been isolationist. Even after the revolution, we still had a relationship with Britain. We depended on them economically. No
Yeah.
one wants to
That
talk
that was
about
our
that.
biggest still our biggest trade partners, and
You they thought we just broke off. We didn't get involved in the multitude of wars between England and France because they would fight over somebody sneezing over the border or whatever, some bullshit, at the time. But we've never truly been isolationists, even when we tried to pretend like we were. We always stuck our nose into other people's business.
yep.
Even Latin America. The one thing I will say is that the founding fathers and most presidents have gone out of their way. I know the founding fathers truly because they made it a point to always try to have a good relationship with Mexico and Canada because they didn't want to be like Europe and always at war with their neighbors.
Mhm.
So it's like when you don't understand history, the good and the bad, is bound to repeat itself in its dumbest ways. The Gilded Age wasn't so gilded. It looked like that old brass plated ass cheap gold lame Oval Office and stupid ballroom that he's probably trying to
Mhm.
build. So it's like we ceded all of our power and they got the person who all you have to do is tell him, "Ooh, look, shiny toy." And he's like, "Huh, huh, huh. You're so great. Your mushroom is so big, whatever." And he believes it.
That's true.
And then it's like and he'll do whatever the fuck you want. And so when you're already Putin's bitch, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's cheese bitch, then what else is he going to do? And so he was mad because he wasn't invited. I'm like, dude, you are their fucking puppet. You are a useful idiot. And it's getting to the point where I think they see the writing on the wall. They see what a lot of people, especially the MAGA people, refuse to see. He's not long for this world. You said earlier you think he's going to make it the full four. I don't think he's going to make it the full four.
I think they're gonna drug them up as much as possible to make sure that
Yeah,
he makes it before.
I agree with
And I
that.
also think they're gonna hold off if it does happen before the 4 and,
They're going to try to hold off as long as
they're gonna
possible.
hold off as long as possible to before they let the public know, because they do know, 'cause I agree with you. I think that this weekend, definitely showed, what the reaction is gonna be not only in, America, but also around the world, because they joined in. Like, everybody around the world was joining in to the speculation and everything like that. I just feel that evil doesn't die.
No,
And so when you are the level of evil that that man is, and you don't die, that's how he's sicker than Biden could have ever been. Like, he's sicker than Biden is right now, and Biden has cancer.
and
And
for cancer, and he's out living
yeah,
his best life, and
yeah, and so knowing that, and yet he's still here. He's still running a fucking evil mess, evil amok. Like, he just I just evil doesn't die, and no matter how much we want, and evil doesn't die the way that they used to. Like, because there would be so many people against evil, like, think of, like, Hitler, right? Like, how did Hitler die? Like, like, embarrassingly, right? And so, it doesn't happen anymore, and I don't think it's gonna happen with him. And I understand people, he's like, "Yeah, he's not gonna last as long." But I think that he is so evil that he has a longer life to live. And the fact that he has the best doctors in the country who are working on him, because the best doctors work on the president of the United States, whoever is in office, and whether they agree with the person or not. So you have the best doctors, you have the best medicine. We're not doing generic brands for this man. We're doing brands, okay? Brand medicine for this man, brand treatment for this man. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be with y'all if it does happen before, but I'm clocking it that I think evil is gonna last 4 years.
I truly hope it doesn't. Look,
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
but yeah, I agree. But so speaking of evil, finally wanted to talk about the gun problem. We know that a couple weeks ago there was a mass shooting, a major one at a Catholic school slash church in Minnesota. The person who did it, they say trans. I almost want to say non-binary based on the readings, because this person didn't
Yeah.
even know what they were. They were just like, I don't want to say I'm a woman, but I like dressing up like a woman sometimes. So I would probably say not, but that's
Mhm.
non-binary, but that's neither here nor there for the
Yeah.
purposes of this story. So first and foremost, and it sounds trite, but my sincerest prayers go out, and I'm not even adding that thoughts bullshit, but my sincerest prayers and condolences go out to all the people who suffered a loss that horrible day. And I will say it again, if that is the shooter's end game, why don't you just skip to the end without causing that much damage? The shooter
Mhm.
their own life. And if that's your end game, just get there. Just skip there. Just skip everything else. Fast forward to that part. You don't even have to try to wreak as much damage in the process of doing that. But so we've had over 4,000 mass shootings in this country. Four of them, four, one, two, three, four. Uno, dos, cuatro. I don't undo set. I can only count to three in Hangul or Korean. Sorry, I'm learning. But y'all get the point. Four, four before have been committed by transgender people. And so now, finally, after years of begging for something to be done about the gun problem that we have here in the United States, they are trying to pass legislation to ban guns. Tammy, yay, for trans people.
Mhm.
They want to claim trans. Now, here, I love, you have to love the evil way in which they're doing this, right?
Yeah.
'Cause, they always say it's not the guns, it's the what? It's the
Mhm. It's
mental
the
illness.
crazy ones. It's the
Yeah.
crazy ones. Mental illness,
So
mental
now they
illness.
want to try to have trans, and I'm sure I'm not saying this right. They want to have transgenderism claimed
Mhm.
as a fucking mental illness in order to ban guns and keep trans people, again, who's less than 1% of the
Population.
entire fucking population of this country,
Mhm.
from owning guns.
It goes back to when they villainize trans people and use the bathroom situation, right? And people really fell for it, and it still to this day pisses me off on how people fell for it. And I think I did tell you about the debate that I had one time on them being like, "Well, aren't you concerned about men being in women's bathroom?" And I said, "No, I don't care. I don't care. You know why? Because if you've ever been in a women's bathroom, we have our own stalls. We have our own stalls. Imma be in my stall, you gonna be in your stall. I don't care." I also talk about how at one point I worked for a company that had co-ed bathrooms, okay? And so you went in, there were no, what do they call, urinals. There were no urinals in that bathroom. It was all stalls. And so you went in and you went to the bathroom. Like, that's what you did. Like, There was no, like, full conversation, like, you didn't socialize in the bathroom because it was men and women who would just go in and out of the bathroom, right? And the only thing you really talked about was, did that person wash their hands? Did
Thank
they
you.
flush? Kinda thing, right? Mm. Huh?
I get you, and I'm more concerned, here is a local story here about the dude who was filming people in the bathroom at the hospital.
Yes, and that's my thing is that what we don't want to acknowledge when they make it all about trans people, right? What we don't want to acknowledge is that the most dangerous group of people in this country are men. There's no acknowledgement about you want to make it about trans women, and the reason why is because you know how dangerous men are. And you know that if anybody's going to try to get around the fact that we allow trans women into women's bathroom, it's going to be men who are going, they be like, but what if a man like dresses up? And yeah, can you acknowledge the fact that that's because they're dangerous? Can we acknowledge that fact that majority of PDFs are men? White men, if we're going to be very specific? Can we identify the fact that majority of school shootings are men? The majority of mass shootings are white men? I'm sick and tired of them villainizing less than 1% of the population, right? And still not acknowledging the reason why you're trying to villainize them is because of how dangerous men are. That's the only reason why you want to focus on this because you think that's the what did they call it? The low-hanging fruit?
Mhm.
And it's so easy to attack that population because y'all don't want to address the actual problem. The actual problem is white men between the ages of 16 and 35. Please miss me with this whole, we're going to take guns away from trans people because four of them have committed mass shootings, but yet we don't want to take guns away from white men. Please miss me with that nonsense, with that. Because they know if they do that, you also have to acknowledge that majority of the crazy ones are also them. Because you villainize, if it's one Muslim, you villainize the whole population. If it's a Hispanic, you want to villainize the whole population. Trans people, the whole population. But why do we never talk about the real problem? I mean, granted, I know why.
Because they're
If you're
already
educated, I don't feel we need
because
to have
they're
an
already
in-depth
picked on,
conversation.
and they're already being made to be vilified and the villains of society, and
But who villainizes them? The same people who is the problem.
so
The same people who is the problem. So, yeah, so I mean, it's really sad and my condolences do go out to anyone, who is suffering the trauma and who's lost somebody within, with this shooting. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you say. You're not going to get me to jump on the bandwagon of them being evil because they're not. They're
they're
absolutely not. They shouldn't have this put on them. They at all. And I don't understand. I will continue to say I don't understand why people are scared of trans people. I don't get it. I honestly do not get the fear and that is put on that community of people to the point where, they're more likely to unalive themselves, they're more likely to be unalived, and yet there's no acknowledgement, really of how much they're suffering in their community because we don't want to acknowledge who the real problem, who's part of the real problem.
I will just say, and it's not a defense. The only thing, because I ask myself the same thing, the only thing I can come up with is that people are always afraid of what they don't understand, and their ignorance. They allow their and fear. Fear causes you to do stupid things, and when you double down on that fear and it's combated instead of allowing yourself to be open to hearing the real information, you just double down on the ignorance from watching, Newsmax and Fox, who, the girlies are fighting, just in case you hadn't heard, over who loves Trump more. Newsmax is suing Fox over trying to have a monopoly over the MAGA market. And I'm like, can y'all get any more dumb? Like, we live in the most unserious time right now. But so that's what I can think of. But speaking of unserious, and we kind of talked about earlier, and I read this theory about Democrats and how Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer sitting there, hear me out,
Yeah, go ahead.
how their lack of action, shall we say, is part of the plan because they know that really, truly, they are powerless. At the end of the day, they can try to rally the troops all they want to. They're not going to get the 2, because in most cases, I think in the House, they just need 2 or they need 4. 4. There's that magic number again, 4. They just need 4, and in the Senate, they need 2. But they know that they're not going to ever get those votes, so they just kinda wanna sit back and say, "Hey," and I don't know that I agree with that, and having said that, I also saw something that said that the DNC chair, who had done so great in Minnesota state politics, that he's not living up to the moment for national politics, that they're starting to realize he may not be the man for the job. And as part of what you say, that 92% who said, "Told you so," and whether or not you liked him, I thought Jamie Harrison did a good job. Does that mean I always agreed with everything, every decision he made? No, it doesn't. But I thought that he was an effective chair, and I get it when, I knew he wasn't gonna be but you could have found here's the thing. I need Democrats to stop playing it so fucking safe, and we've talked about that. And they're going for what they think. They're going for those vanilla, and I'm saying this in character, like personality, not racial, but they're going for those bland, middle of the road people who they think, because like you said, they think that we're still stuck in the 90s, the early 2000s, and politics have changed. And what got you in Minnesota elections is not going to help you win national elections. The gloves have got to fucking come off. Take a page, pay attention. Gavin's career was on fucking life support. I don't even think CPR could have saved his ass, because he was trying to go be that bland, middle of the road vanilla. And if you've ever followed Gavin Newsom, and I followed him when he was lieutenant governor of California, that's never been who he was. Never. And I think he thought, like a lot of people, that he was going to try to play that game to see how far it would get him. Because again, y'all think that the loudest are the largest, and that's not true. And he learned the hard way. If Trump had not marched those guards into California, homeboy would be DOA. He'd just be quietly serving out his time as the governor of California. Pritzker, he's always been a fighter, but I don't know if he has national aspirations or not. But take a page out of their book and see what they're doing. See how they're fighting back. That's what the people want. Again, stop watching local news. Stop watching mainstream. If you don't watch Rachel Maddow for any other reason on Monday nights, watch her, because she always does a segment about the people who are out protesting. They're out in these streets, and they're out in the streets loud. And it's not just Democrats. It's not just in blue cities and blue states.
It's everybody.
It's everybody in places you would not fucking believe. So the loudest are not always the largest. And I'm tying this all together because, it all kind of ties in together, and it kind of goes into that thing about the influencers and how they are taking, dark money. Now, the one thing I did disagree with is I need a lot of these, how do I say it? These wannabe liberals, these far leftists, to get off their you called it the Jill Stein effect, and I love that. I need you to get off of this one issue voting thing,
Mhm.
thinking that I need you to realize politics is not TikTok. Politics is not social media. You can't jump on the trendy thing and think that that's going to do something. It's
Yeah.
not. Politics is a process, and it's a lot of bureaucracy. It's a lot of bullshit. It's a lot of red tape involved. Again, you motherfuckers a year ago were loud and proud and wrong about Gaza and what it was going to take to fix Gaza. And now that Gaza is barely even there anymore, the person who could have fixed it, because she didn't address it the way you wanted her to, because she wasn't going to be bullied by you all into saying what you wanted her to say, you and again, some of it was ops. Y'all fell for the ops on social media. You got on these platforms and said, "This is the only reason why I'm voting, and this is the trendy thing to do right now."
Mhm.
And you fucked yourselves, you fucked us, and you fucked Gaza.
Mhm.
So that was the one thing I agreed about with that, is those, again, I need y'all, when it comes to politics, I need you to do some research, your own research. I need you to put on your big girl panties and your big boy panties, or your diapers, whatever you wearing. And I need you to see the bigger picture, okay? Everything that happens, I don't have kids. I have a dog, Bear, that's my child. But does that mean I want kids going to school fucking starving? No. Do I mind my tax-paying dollars going to feed the children? No. Does that mean I mind my tax-paying dollars going to help seniors? No, because God willing, one day I'll be on retirement Medicare and I don't need that too. So I don't have a problem with my money going to those things. I have a problem with Elon Musk practically getting a package or a plan for a package to make him a fucking trillionaire, and he is one of the most evil, selfish motherfuckers in the world. He don't even take care of his own goddamn kids, but he want everybody else to have fucking kids. You know. So that is my thing. That is I am done. I hand the mic to you. I know that was a lot.
Try to no, no, no. I'm gonna try to go. Yeah, I gotta start at the top because you know I had something to say about the first one.
Mhm.
I will say that um I know it was a couple weeks ago we talked about um establishment Democrats and how, there's been conversation about they need to go. And I will say Hakeem Jeffries needs to go and Schumer needs to go. And it's off of one thing, right? This is the one. I mean, it's multiple things that go into it, but this is what solidified my support and my belief that they need to go. They need to get out because they're establishment, along with some other ones that I can name. It is because you understand that the people of New York City, the Democrats of New York City, have chosen Mamdani to be the nominee for the Democrat side to be the next mayor of New York City. And because you're an establishment Democrat and because you take as much money as you do from those people, you refuse to endorse him. You refuse to acknowledge what's going on in Gaza. You refuse to acknowledge the role that you have played in the fact that over 100,000 people have died and millions have been displaced. Okay. And then when it's time for y'all to step up and talk about what are you going to do, it's like, well, they're sitting back because they don't have no power. Bullshit. That's bullshit. Because your power should be in the people. It's not like I understand you have no power in Congress. I get that. You don't have any power in Congress. That's true. But you have power in the people, in the voice of the people. Why are you not rallying them?
And
Are you not rallying them? And then you send out, yeah, like you got the Jasmine Crockett's and the AOC and Bernie Sanders with his old ass who needs to sit down as well. Cause he's let me not get into that because that'll push me through.
but when you let Bernie take over, and that's the thing, no one likes Bernie. Bernie is that unlikable person, right? But Bernie, I will say this, I don't agree with a lot that he says, but he knows how to go out and rally the people. He knows how, and when you let him become the face of the fight for the Democratic Party, you fucked up. Because as soon as he gets any traction, he's going to turn around and stab that party in the back. And when you send out AOC, you send out Jasmine Crockett, but they're both women who you've tried to, how do I say this,
Silence.
muzzle, silence, who you've tried to change to get them to play the game. And to their credit, they have not. AOC has gotten smarter about how she plays the game,
Yeah, she
but
has.
she's still who she is. So I agree with you. And, Hakeem, your rhyming tweets showing that you from the boogie down or from Brooklyn, they're not hitting
We
the
don't
way
care.
they're not hitting it. We're beyond those rhyme and tweet moments. And even if you know you're going to lose, the people still want to see you fight. And that's what I say. You got to fight for the people. So even if you're not waging that congressional fight, which is going to waste a lot of time and money, take it out to the people. Say, this is what is going on. This is why we're doing this. This is who call out those Republicans.
Every time.
This is who we wanted to vote with us. This is who said behind the door that they would vote with us. But when the
Mhm.
rubber hit the road, this is the motherfucker that changed their mind.
Yeah.
Like, that is
Like
how you play the game.
and that's how you know establishment Democrats because they refuse to call out Republicans because they still believe that at some point we're going to need we're going to need them, right? And I'm like, "No, you need to play the game the way that they did. Don't ever fucking need them for shit. Don't every when y'all take and another thing that pisses me off about these establishment Democrats because they're the problem. It's too many of them first of all in Congress still. But these establishment Democrats, they are now going to run on the mistakes of Trump. on the evil of Trump, like they did in 2020, like they tried to do in 2016, okay? Like they did in 2024, okay? Kamala tried to go around that, but all they were focused on is, we got to stop him. No, you got to stop the whole entire party, all of them.
And everything she said was
You have
true.
to cut them at the knees. And that's the problem. We're so focused on that one man that we forget the fact that evil is breaded up in there. It's breaded up in there. They are breeding more and more every single day. And so I'm like, I am sick and tired of y'all playing this game. I need you to sit your ass out. I need you to be primaried. And the thing is that I need some socialists. I'm gonna put it out there. When you know what socialism really is, we need some socialists because corporations get socialism all the time. They get our money all the time. And people who don't understand what socialism is truly believe this idea that they be selling, but how socialism is one step away from communism and we don't want no communism. You don't even know what communism is. You don't know what socialism is. Lack of education. We understand. No child left behind. I got it. But but absolutely. And that's the reason why I agree with you on the Gavin Newsom thing. And I never thought of it that way, right? I understood like people were dogging that man when he had Kirk on his podcast and he was he and up with that man on his podcast saying about how his son, looks up to him and everything like that. And we were like, ooh, Gavin, come on now. And I feel it wasn't just Gavin necessarily. I think it was the Democrat establishment because they were putting him forth as the next person because he couldn't run in 2024. And so they're setting him up to run, I think, in 2028 or maybe even 2032, depending on, how Kamala goes, which is a whole nother conversation because I got a theory about that whole thing. And he realized his mistake. And I do think that Trump doing what he was doing and trying to villainize California definitely, put some fire under the ass of Newsom and his team to be like, hey, let's be the fuck yous that we need to be.
'Cause he's always
Because
a person,
yeah,
always, even
and
as
and and
lieutenant
all we
governor.
need is one because and the thing is that people say this, and I agree. Gavin Newsom is the perfect fuck you person of the Democrat Party. The perfect one. Why? Because they consider him to be good looking.
Fits.
He's young enough, he's fit, he's white, he's a man, and he also for years have been running one of the largest economies in the world successfully. No matter what people try to say about California, California has grown under his leadership, okay? It has grown under his leadership to become what it is today, all right? And so with that perfect person, and that's the reason why he's pushing forward. Going into the whole dark money and everything, that's why they're trying to talk this down and we're going into purity politics, which always cuts us at the knees, is because they're like, "Oh no, but he's not perfect. I don't need a fucking perfect politician. I don't. If my politician wants to lie every once in a while, lie. Okay?
He's shady
Lie.
enough.
Lie to my benefit. I need you to lie to my benefit. Okay? When you want to lie to my face, you want to lie on TV and be like, "Okay, well, I'm this is what I'm gonna do," and you happen to follow through, I don't care because majority of the stuff that you're gonna do, the majority of the stuff that you say you're gonna do, you're going to do. So if you wanna give me one or two white lies, fucking give me the one or two white lies. We're at the point where I cannot look and be like, I need you to be ethical on everything because unethical people are currently running our government. And we need some people who is willing to get down in the trenches with them. I don't need people who trying to stay above the mess. I need you to get down in the dirt. Roll around in that mud with them and take them out.
And the 4th largest economy, it'll be funny when it surpasses the United States, like, people think California because I'm serious, like, we were talking about it, you just raided a fucking Hyundai plant in Georgia, not do you not realize that Hyundai is one of the largest employers in that state, that car manufacturing plant? And South Korea and so when they first said it, they were thinking and when we think immigrants, we have this mindset because we've been so
Hispanics.
indoctrinated to automatically think Hispanics, and then you think illegals because of that indoctrination. No, these were South Korean workers sent here by South Korea
To build it up.
to work in the plant. They were here legally. South Korea had to negotiate, and they're not saying what the negotiation was, what they had to give up to get them back, but they have now told their workers, not just
Come
for
on
high,
back.
don't come here. So I'm like, now you fucking with my BTS, you know.
Well, another thing is, and Imma kinda counter this, Imma be a little bit of a devil's advocate with this, okay? I think we talked about this on our first show back. No, not to the degree, that we need to, but we definitely mentioned it. And when you think about people of color and you think about Black people, okay, Black people voted more for Kamala Harris than any other demographic in the country. And then we talk about, Hispanics, right? And we talk about how immigration is attached to them. And I always ask the question, where are the Asians? Right? Like, where are the Asian Americans? And to know that they voted for him, right? So you go into Georgia. In Georgia, the Korean American population, 64% of them voted for Trump. 64% of Korean Americans voted for Trump, which goes into this model minority myth, okay, that plagues their community and yet they ignore it, right? They kind of be like, well, that's not me. They have this very, well, that's not me, that's them. It's other Asians, but it's not us. So 64% of y'all voted for this, and then here is the consequence of now you're even being targeted. You are even being targeted by the people that you voted into office. Okay? You are feeling the FAFO. You fucked around and now you're finding out. And it's sad when we have to say this to y'all, but this is the consequence. It's like the affirmative action. We fucking told y'all that we don't benefit from affirmative action. That is not a benefit that Black people have. But you were told by those people that we benefit more than anything. And that is the reason why you're not getting into these Ivy League schools anymore. And so y'all became the face of taking away affirmative action. And what was the consequence of that? You got hit more than the rest of us did. You did. And so, once again, y'all really silent about everything that's going on in this country because I'm gonna be honest, I don't see one prominent Asian person who is speaking out. And by Asians,
Besides George Takai?
huh?
Besides George Takai? Is
Yeah,
that what
like no, but even like, besides like one or two, but they're supposed to be like very prominent, right? Like when you think about minorities and people of color, although, they don't like to, some of them don't like to attach themselves to that. They're supposed to be the prominent ones within the community of people of color. And so, but there's not enough of them who are coming out and speaking out. They're silent because they chilling. But now you're not chilling. So now South Korea has to come in and take, their workers back and then be like, Americans, we don't want you here. We don't want you here. Go about your business. Go about your business. But at the same time, devil's advocate, y'all chose this. You set yourselves up for this, and now you reaping the non-benefits of your choice.
question? So, my friend, she's traveling in Tokyo and she's saying that it's a beautiful country. She hasn't seen too many people that look like us. She was told that in the beginning. And I wonder if it goes to the whole white proximity. So I think it's partially
It
twofold.
is.
The white proximity and the homogeny of where they come from. And I'm gonna add in a third one. Everybody wants our rhythm, but they never understand and they don't want the blues. They don't understand it, and when they see us outside of our rhythm, which is the entertainment aspects, the sports, they see us as the stereotypes that have been perpetuated. They don't see us, Black women or Black people, as some of the most educated, creative, talented people
They don't.
outside of that entertainment area. They don't see us as the businessmen, the doctors, the lawyers, and all of that. They just see that. And so I think, and it's kind of disheartening because Kamala never hid the fact that she was half Asian, you know? And so, and I wonder, it's like, why would you vote for someone who was very blatant about his disdain for people who weren't white?
Because he wasn't vocal about his disdain for Asians.
Again, and it goes to when he said immigrants, he pointed out only one immigrant group.
Yes. And so they as a community, just on my observation with, my degree, that it is more on it's never them because they are not mentioned. They don't get mentioned when they're talking about immigration, they're not mentioned. When they're talking about crime, they're never mentioned, right? When you talk about the different communities within this country, they're never mentioned. Nobody's talking about Chinatown. Nobody's talking about K-Town. Nobody's talking. I don't know what they call the Japanese. J-Town. I don't I don't know.
Say the Japanese have been out there protesting, let's call 'em what they are, the fucking modern internment camps that they're trying to build.
And because of their experience, right? But here's the thing, when we go into that, right, and we know that Japanese, because they were the face of the Japanese internment camps, because that's what we call them, the Japanese internment camps. But there's no acknowledgement for, because we talk about the three main countries that come from East Asia, all right? And so when we talk about China and Korea, they were also rounded up as well because they couldn't tell the difference between the different nationalities. They couldn't tell the difference between them. So there were Koreans who were in the Japanese internment camps. There were Chinese that were in the Japanese internment camps. But because they're called the Japanese internment camps, there's no acknowledgement of the fact that they also suffered, right? And that kind of goes along with, like, when people talk about the Holocaust, I understand that they were the majority of the people who suffered within the concentration camps and who were killed in the Holocaust were the Jewish population, but there's no acknowledgement about the fact that they rounded up homosexuals and they killed them and they gassed them as well. They rounded up Black people and Africans and they killed them and gassed them up as well. They rounded up the gypsies and they killed them and they gassed them as well because they did not fit the profile that they felt should be within their country and should be dominant within the world. So while, yes, you had millions who of the Jewish population, but we forget about the other populations that suffered within the Holocaust. And that's our tunnel vision. We have a lot of tunnel vision when we think of events so that people can understand it more. You can't throw too much information at people at once. But I think that it's a Eurocentric viewpoint because take in our culture, but we have to understand they only take in parts of our culture, right? When you talk about how they don't acknowledge the fact that we have doctors and lawyers and just scientists that are within our culture that we can be proud of. No, what is the main thing that they focus on is entertainment, and when they think about entertainment, it's music, right? Hip hop is the main influence within Asian culture is hip hop, right? That's what they associate with us. They don't associate anything else with us. It may be fashion as well, to a certain degree. When they want to look like a thug, they will equate fashion as well. But that's it. That's the influence that we have within the culture, real influence that we have. And so it's very Eurocentric. That's the reason why Korea is the number one for plastic surgery, right? Because when they get plastic surgery, they're not trying to look Asian. They're not trying to look, like their own people. No, they get plastic surgery for white features, right? Like they're getting plastic surgery for white features because it's very Eurocentric in how their culture as a whole is. Yes, I'm sure all of them ain't, because you always got to say not all of them, but but for a good number of them, it's the fact they're trying to stay as close to white as possible. All right, because they were invaded by European countries, all right, by the white population, by Europeans is where the invasion came. When America came over, it was mainly European Americans who went over to Asia and invaded them and colonized them to a certain degree. So that's what they focus on, and it's just sad because I'm just like, I wish more y'all would speak out because y'all are suffering just like we are. Don't come out when all of a sudden you get hit because Asian is Asian. They can't tell y'all apart.
Yeah, and, and it goes back to every time I hear someone say this isn't no, this is exactly what you voted for. You just
Yeah,
didn't vote for it to happen to you. You didn't think that
exactly.
you would be affected by it. So the number of minority groups, even
And
though
they're
just
going one by I
barely.
just wanna say, they're going by one. Have you noticed that? That they're hitting one group at a time, like, they're not hitting all at once, because they want us to focus. So they're getting one. So right now, I'm just like, is the Asian population time, to get
Well,
hit with this racism?
they're clearing them all out so that they have no choice but to put us back in our black jobs. That's what it's for. They trying to prove that point. See, we told you they were taking your black jobs. And what you don't realize is Y'all don't want this smoke. Like, you do not want to do
We
what
not
you think
going.
what you do with us, cause we like, here I'm just gonna tell y'all, and I'm just gonna tell you, for those of y'all that don't have never been to the cookout, those of you that have never been invited, will never be invited, or just ignore your invitations, those of you who don't have any Black friends, those of you who don't know your true history of this country, we built this motherfucker, and we will burn this motherfucker down before we allow you to take us back to that.
Yeah.
Just remember that. Y'all think those fake fires y'all started, all those protests at night were us. You have not seen shit yet. So stay in your lane, and I'm telling you now, we built it, and I'm just telling you like my mom told me when I was young. I brought you in this world, I will take you out.
You right, and I
We
think
built this motherfucker, we will burn it to the
and one
ground
thing I wanna
before we
say
go
is
back.
they don't understand what we mean by burn it down. They actually think we mean, like, set it on fire, and no. So, I will say that one way that we, are teaching them that we will burn this shit to the ground is our silence. Is the fact that after November 5th, we were like, "Bet, got you. I'm done. We're gonna sit back." That was part of because people for some reason don't see that and be like, "Oh, that was the resistance." That was. That was us saying, "Bet, you say you got this, you got this." Like that's part of us burning this shit to the ground because you saw like y'all can't get full traction, right?
That's Target.
Like, huh?
That's Target.
Yeah. Like you can't fully get traction because we are refusing to be the face of this time. Like refusing. Y'all still don't know what to do with yourselves. And that's the reason why every single time you turn on the news or you listen to mainstream media, you see something else that they're doing that is directed at us without them saying it's directed at us.
Thank
Because
you.
they are trying everything to get us out. When he said that he was taking away Kamala's
Secret Service.
security detail, and we were like, Okay. Uh-huh. Like, that's crazy. We were talking amongst ourselves, y'all.
And then
Don't think we weren't pissed off. Don't think that we weren't, like, having conversations about it, but we wasn't you wasn't gonna hear about it. No, because what ended up having to happen, when they realized that we weren't coming out full force because you did that, they realized they had to step up, and by they, I mean white people. They had to step up and be like, "Okay, so how we gonna protect this woman?" Because, yeah, black people told us that they weren't gonna do our job for us anymore. And that's the reason why, like, you had military service members saying that they would be willing to protect her. And then you had finally California coming out and saying that we'll provide her with security detail when she's on her book tour because she's going to need it because y'all got some crazy supporters within y'all's ranks. But that's it. Like it took them a minute though. It did take them a minute because they were waiting. And when they really realized that, nah, we nope, you're not getting us with this one, they were like, oh shit, okay, so how are we doing this? Like how we gonna protect her because they still not coming out of the woodwork, so we gotta step up. And I will say that's one thing I appreciate about people who are starting to step up of other people of color, as well as white people who are starting to realize like, hey, like we really have to play our role because they're tired. They're really like we're tired, y'all. Like we gonna talk. We continue to talk because that's what this podcast is. But I'm just tired. I can't be in the streets anymore. Like I'm old. My knees hurt. Like like I can't get up as quickly as I used to. So
thank
yeah,
you.
tag you're in like full on
And
forever,
that's how you ended up
forever.
with I'm sure he's a nice guy, and what he did for Minnesota politics is great, but that's how you ended up with this lame duck chair
Yeah,
for the DNC.
because they thought that's what we needed, and
Yeah,
we
and
don't. We
and
we
it's
need
like,
a Harris.
y'all don't listen to us, and every
Yeah.
time we tell you no, and that's the thing. And here's the lens. Just because you don't support us, you think we never support you, and that's not true at all. That is absolutely
So we're the
fucking
most welcoming group of people.
you know, like I said, I followed Gavin Newsom when he was lieutenant governor, and this is the Gavin Newsom I knew as lieutenant governor. I knew as governor he would tone it down a little bit because different role.
Mhm.
But now it's just like he learned his lesson. But that's the thing, because y'all don't support us. You think we never support you, and that's not true. Because you only get to if we fucks with you, we fucks with you. and people are learning you only get to where you are if you have our support.
Yeah.
Like, if our support didn't show you anything, how the fuck you think Biden became president? Because he was DOA until South Carolina. And, you know,
They had to get the black churches, they had to get the black population on board for that. They had to get them out in the woodworks, in the streets in order to, give that man the nomination.
and now Joseph Robinette Biden is one of us. He got a lifetime invite to the cookout. Like, it's just like, so I really, it's part of the divide and conquer strategy that this country has always had with the poor and the minority population. You always try to pit us against each other. And the one population that you think benefits the most from everything, yeah, we got voting rights from the Civil Rights Act, but so did everyone else. It wasn't just, it wasn't just about us. And that's the thing. They're like, you think it's always just about us. No, we're the ones at the forefront taking the bullets and the strays for you, but everybody else is climbing on our back and then stepping over us, you know.
And leaving us behind, like, "Thank you," like, not even a thank you, like, just be like, "Oh, okay, cool," and keep it moving, not realizing that because, the conversation was as well, at one point, they had the Chinese Exclusion Act, okay, where y'all weren't allowed to come here, okay? Civil rights was not civil rights for just Black people, and I need people to understand that, okay? It's not a Black people movement, what civil rights was. It was for civil rights, not just for
Human
us, but for everybody. Yes, human rights. And so it's the fact that there's still no acknowledgement about that when we benefit, everyone benefits. Okay, but it's not the same for y'all. Like if there is a policy or a law that's put in place for another population of color, it doesn't benefit everyone else. It doesn't benefit everyone else the same way that it does if it's us. And that's just fact because I tell people, I say, because we're not indigenous to the land, okay? We're not indigenous to the land, but we're indigenous to this country, okay? That's where our indigenous comes from. We're indigenous to this country, not the land, okay? We're not indigenous to this land. We're not Native Americans. I understand that. But we're indigenous to this country. Okay, there's only two groups of people that are indigenous to this country, and we're one of them. And there needs to be an acknowledgement of that. And for some reason, they don't like to acknowledge it. But I digress. You live and you learn. You live and you learn.
You do, you do,
Ooh,
and
let's go some lightness.
we getting there. So this is still on the political realm, but we lightening up. So, brain dead, Congress is back, and brain dead is on the hot seat, brainworm, the dude who snorted heroin, for 13 years of his life and thinks that he reached the other side and it made him smarter, thinks that he tapped into that part of the brain, where they say where all your real intelligence is, but we can never tap into it. He thinks he tapped into that part of the brain and make America healthy again. Like he wants to take us back to the 1400s, like when plague. So the CDC, everyone at HHS, the people who are remaining. Now, this is how you know it's fucking bad, right? The head of the CDC was one of his acolytes. I don't think people remember that. This woman, she
We
was
were
an
singing her
anti-vax.
praises. Yeah,
And she was an anti-vaxxer, she written papers about it, she was one of his fucking acolytes. That was the lady that was did she resign or was she fired? The
they
one
fired her.
the one who just left the CDC. So she was all up in, her and brain dead were on that same wavelength. She left because she said it's a fucking shit show.
Mhm.
Everyone who's left at HHS, that's Health and Human Services, and they're the parent for CDC, FDA, all that, say he is a fucking nutbag. And so Congress, one of the first things they did because of him being so crazy, they called him in, where he continues to be a fucking nutbag. He said taking Tylenol when you are pregnant causes autism. And they are going to release a report that says that. Because, first it was the vaccines, now it's fucking Tylenol. If I were Tylenol, I would sue. So I say this to say that I'm pissed off because now you have all this quote unquote bipartisan support, but you were the motherfuckers who approved this idiot to begin with. And I want to say it is Massey, if I'm not mistaken, the guy that I mentioned earlier. He was the lone holdout vote, and this motherfucker was a doctor and he knew better. An actual doctor. And he knew that this would be the worst mistake. And so now it's like, I think the only way to get him out is for Trump to fire him or he quits or he's impeached.
Yeah.
And so he is in all of this anti-science. It's like, when did we stop believing in science? When did we stop believing in the
2020.
power? Huh?
2020.
You know, the power of you know, and I get it. Yeah, you want to be aware of the shit that you're putting in your body, but all these tinfoil conspiracy theorists about, COVID and all of this shit, it's like, dude, it's here, it's staying there, there's another variant of it out now. You want to get rid of the fucking flu vaccine. You want to get rid of cancer screenings and cancer research and all this shit. And I'm like, damn, I understand why the brain died. And I understand why the worm died now. But it's like, and so now Florida is following his lead because, DeSantis is going to DeSantis, which tells me that he's trying to either get back on Trump's good side, he's trying to take away from his own scandals of how he's running that shit show state, or he has some idea that he's going to ever be president. Dude, you're not. But him and who are we gonna call this fool? Cletus? I don't even know what to call this idiot. But he's the Surgeon General of Florida, and he was one of those anti-scientist doctors. He wasn't the witch doctor. And I hate saying kinfolk ain't skinfolk, so I'm just gonna say he's skinfolk. He damn sure ain't kinfolk. But he's skinfolk, unfortunately. And this motherfucker had the nerve to say that vaccines are like fucking slavery. And that is why they should end the vaccine mandate in Florida. So, as much as I love Disney World, I will not be stepping foot in Florida until they get rid of these crazy motherfuckers. Because that is going to be, I say schools and hospitals are already petri dishes, but Florida,
I was talking to some people and they're not black. Okay. Some non-black
I
people.
love how you preface that.
Because they're not white either, but they're not black. Okay.
Mhm.
Some non-black people. And, talking about, the fact that Florida has now put no vaccine. Now, I knew for years have said, I'm never going to Florida. And so they were like, no, but like you've never been to Disney World. And I was like, oh, I went to Universal Studio. They were like, no, it's not Disney World. And I was like, okay, I understand that. And they were like, you got to go to Disney World. And I said, absolutely not. And they're like, why? Because you're giving Florida money. And I refuse to give Florida any money. Like, I don't care if there are people in Florida who do not support this. I'm not giving Florida any of my money. And their thing was, even with this, they were not 100% on board with never going to Florida. And I was like, yeah, like you're a huge Mickey fan. I just it just blew my mind because I was just like, and I've said this multiple times on the podcast, like I've said it multiple times that I make my decisions not only like I make my decisions based on who you are as a person. Your character definitely plays a role on whether I support you or not. And there are still too many people who box things in. Okay, who will be like, I know that, like, great example. I know that Chris Brown is a shitty ass person and an abuser, but I like his music. And so I'm going to separate the artist from the music, and I'm still going to listen to some Chris Brown, right? There's too many people still in this world who have that mindset of separating the artist from the music, separating Disney World from the state. You cannot do that because people need to also understand that at one point Florida was full blue. It was a blue state in the South, like blue, not light blue,
In the
not purple.
2002 with the
Yeah,
whole thing with Bush and
yeah,
Gore.
it was full blue. Okay? And so I'm like, I would never, never. And to know that I trust science because I didn't go to school for it. I am not a scientist. I do not have a degree in science. I don't. I do not have a science degree. I have a degree in liberal arts and I love it. Okay. I love it. All right. Because I think on a level that there are too many people who don't think on the level that I think on. Okay, with my liberal arts degree that people always want to disparage and want to talk down upon. Okay. But I trust the science. And to know that Florida as a state celebrate, okay, because yeah, I understand. Like you got some blue up in there. But as a state, they celebrated this. They're proud of themselves for the fact that they're going to be the first state with no vaccine. And what I wanna tell people is I live in Texas. Do you know how Texas and Florida works? If it happens in one, it's gonna happen in the other.
Man,
It's
that
only a matter of time before our governor I know he already in the room talking about this to see how Texas is gonna do it. Because we follow each other. If Texas does it, Florida's gonna do it. If Florida does it, Texas is gonna do it. Because once Texas and Florida does it, then we got all these other southern states that's gonna hop on board, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, okay? And so this is scary. And I'm not even scared for myself. It's like when you talked about the money situation, right? You were like, how you don't have kids. I don't have kids, but I have no problem with my tax dollars going to make sure that children are taken care of. Okay. It goes towards the fact that adults are making decisions off of something that they've already benefited from.
mhm,
You're putting children in danger.
mhm.
You're already immune, like, you already have herd immunity has already worked for you.
It's the same thing with the measles outbreak, like, those kids were not vaccinated,
Yeah.
and it's like and as quiet as it's kept, the CDC did come in and put a stop to it. They wanna make you think that it died out. It didn't. It didn't just
They
die
had to
out.
step in. They had to step in.
And so it's like I need y'all to pay attention to these things. And it's like you are making it so that your kids have fewer rights than you did. And that's not the whole idea of moving forward, the shining beacon on the hill, whatever. And, the CDC also, because this next story I read in People magazine. People. So there's this bug called I can't pronounce the bug's name. They call it the kissing bug because it likes to bite you on your face. And it carries a disease called Chagas, which was all the way across the world over in Europe and Asia and I think maybe Africa. But now it's showing up in the United States. So this bug likes to bite you on your face, and when it bites you, it defecates. And I know we said we were going to get rid of big words. That means it shits. And it shits out a parasite
Thank
into
you. Thank you.
you.
Because you
You
know some people gonna be like, "I don't know what that means."
yeah, it shits out a parasite into your face. And so this parasite is dormant until, like most bug bites, a spider bite, a mosquito bite, you're going to start itching. Well, when you start scratching, you activate that shitty parasite in your face. And it's carrying this disease called Chagas, Chagas. I think there might be an R. I'll double check. But anyway, so now you got this shitty parasite around in your body and most people don't know they have Chagas because the symptoms present like a cold or a flu or something like that, right? The only real way to really know, unless you just start feeling really bad that this thing is killing you because it attacks your heart and your nervous system and all that, is when your eyelids swell. So if you get bitten in the face by a bug and it starts itching, don't scratch. Take your ass to the doctor and let them know. And it's okay to be paranoid because, we got a man who has a dead brain, a dead worm rotting in his brain, leading Health and Human Services. So don't scratch anything that bites you on your face. You're going to release that shitty parasite and you might get the Chagas. I am not trying to scare you. Again,
Serious.
let me tell you where I read about this. Fucking People magazine. And my thing is, when we had adults in the room and real people, serious people running the fucking country, we wouldn't have heard about this from People fucking magazine.
We
There
heard
would have
from New
been,
York Times, Wall Street Journal.
thank you. It would have been alerts. There would have been, and the cases are already here. And yes, maybe this will help you take it more seriously. It affects pets too. Okay. So now, having said that, Terry, the same people who might ignore the Chagas warning are the same people who, how often do you bathe?
Every day. Every day. That's what I was taught. I grew like, yeah.
Every
Cold
day.
water, hot water, every day.
Okay. I'm going to keep it real. I'm an everyday person unless it's that day where I just come home and I knock the fuck out and I fall asleep and I can't. But the next day,
But you did it in the morning, though.
yeah,
You
I'm
did it
getting
in
up
the
and I
morning.
wash my ass,
At least once a day. At least, like, you did
Yes.
it in the morning. Like, I can understand if, like, you ain't going nowhere, it's just you, but every day, if I gotta go at least once a day, I'm jumping in. I'm jumping in.
Even if you got to take what we in the community call that whole
Cow
bath,
the cowboy bath. My mom
the
used to call
cowboy
it a
bath,
cowboy bath,
the cowboy bath, the whole bath, the pits and tits, get your pits
but
and
every
bits
day.
every day. You wash your feet,
Every day.
you wash your legs,
Every day.
You wash your Ruta and your Tuda?
every single day, my underarms.
You wash
I
your
even I even
underarms?
get my neck. I even get my neck. Like, I got my washcloth and
You
I
get your
get my
neck?
neck because sometimes we forget about the neck as well. Every day. My face,
Yeah,
every day.
you get the under boob.
Everywhere. Even
So
under the rolls. Even under the roll. Even under the roll.
tired of these people of the pace going on Beyonce's social media, telling the world about their bad hygiene, and then getting mad when people are like, "You nasty."
Full on nasty. Like, Eddie, they used to shit in corners of the palaces that they had because they had no sense of hygiene. And so they used to shit in corners and piss in corners. They used to throw their shit out of their window. And when I tell people that that is the reason why umbrellas were invented, okay, and used in Europe, it was not for the rain and to block out the sun.
It was for the rain. It's raining shit.
you know, it was for that type of rain, that yellow rain. But it was because people used to throw their feces out of their windows and it used to land on people and land on the street. That is the reason why they smelt disgusting. And
Someone
now
took
to
a
know
leak
that y'all
from
still
leaving in
think,
your streets.
but it's very Eurocentric, right? Like, so it goes, like, I feel like in a lot of ways, this idea of hygiene goes back to colonization and imperialism, right? And thinking that you are the dominant group of individuals in the world, right? Because you conquered more of the world than any other continent did, right? And you try to spread your ideas of love as far as you possibly could. And so when we say that we wash every single day, you fell for this idea that we do it because our skin is darker and we're dirty. We get dirty faster because our skin is darker, so we can't see the dirt. But you can see the dirt because you are not this shade, you are this shade, right? And so I'm looking, I'm just like, when I saw that woman, I thought it was a joke at first. Like, I saw it on TikTok because she posted it on TikTok and she comes up, right, on my FYP. I don't know how this woman got on my FYP, but she comes up on my FYP and she starts talking and she's talking about this. And I'm waiting for the stitch to happen. Because I thought the whole entire time, I thought it was a stitch. Like, I thought someone that, I followed, I found, like, listened to this video and they were stitching it to talk about it, right? Because I follow this guy that talks about how hygiene is cultural. And so he always like shows us why he's saying hygiene is cool. So I thought it was like something I was waiting for him to show up, right? I was waiting for one of them to show up. And then I realized halfway through the video, I was like, this is her video. Because I looked at the little icon and realized it was a picture of her. And I was like, wait. This is her video. Like, she really, like, she's serious. Like, nobody's coming in to stitch this and be like, yeah, because, hygiene is cultural and this is what we dealing with. No, she said she bathed twice a week. A week. 2 times a week. 3 times if we're lucky. Because we the ones that got to suffer through it. 3 times if we're lucky. How do we get like this? And by we, how they get like this?
It's cultural, and it's
They
you
share
know,
bath water. Do you know that they share bath Did you know that they share bath water?
they sell their fucking bath water, like, and think it's a
No,
fuck.
no, no, no. But so because this conversation happens, right? And I didn't tell you about this one when we were off, but another video comes up and it's of a white woman and she's talking about how she did not learn about hygiene, like really learn about hygiene until she moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and she started to interact with Black people in Atlanta, Georgia. And when she would just be talking to them, everything like that. And she was like, I did not know that people bathe every single day because that's not how I was raised. She was like, it was definitely a culture shock because talking to Black people in Atlanta, Georgia is where she learned that we bathe every single day and we use washcloths and we use a different washcloth for our face than what we use for our body. Like, that's just not something that they did. And then she talked about growing up and how it was 4 of them and they would share each other's bath water. And so the oldest would go first and they would bathe. And then she was she was the second oldest. And so she would bathe. And then their younger siblings would go into the water. They're not draining or anything like that. They would go and they would bathe in the same water that was in the tub. So it wasn't a shower. It's not showering. It was a tub water. They would fill up the tub once. And then everybody would go and bathe. When their youngest sister was born, like, she's telling this story, and I felt so bad for her because I was just like, "Yo, this is crazy to me. I never would have understood this." And she's telling the story of how when her younger sister comes to her one day and it's like, "Is the water supposed to be yellow?" And she was like, "What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?" And she was like, "The water's yellow." She realized in that moment, this is the 4th child, okay? So now 3 of them. She and the 4th one, she was a baby. She was like, I don't know, like maybe 4 or something like that. So she used to bathe with the oldest one. And she started to realize that the water was changing color. Now, if you're bathing with the oldest one, that means you're going first. Why is the water a different color? To realize that their oldest sister was peeing in the water. And she was like, they never knew. She'd been pissing in their water, in their bath water. And they were bathing in her pissy water. Okay? This ain't a pool, y'all. This ain't a pool. Okay? There's no chlorine up in this water. Okay? And so she's like, she said, and even then, she was just like, it's just what they did. So she would just be like, she was disgusted. Like disgusted. And yet they couldn't waste water, couldn't waste water. So then she talking about how they had one washcloth for the family, one washcloth for the family. And she said she at least knew enough. She never used the washcloth because she said it looked nasty. That's the kind of stories that these people are talking about. You got Jason Kelsey talked about how he didn't wash his feet and he don't wash his legs. He lets the soap water run down and he refuses to touch his feet. Even when he was playing football, he refused to touch his feet.
I remember that, and Travis was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, like, you saw his face was like, "Dude, like, I watched," and he was just like, especially on game day, like, every day that, "Yeah, I wash my feet," like, he was looking like, "Wait, sir, like, what we talking about here?" Like, and I'm just like, "Yeah,
So,
sorry,
but,
hygiene is cultural."
it is. Speaking of cultural, moving on to entertainment, as if that wasn't entertaining enough, but I guess one of the OG Karens, Paula Deen, is trying to make a comeback, and I really wanted to skip over this, and I had the same reaction when I first read it, right? So, I was thinking, "Oh, okay, so there's gonna be some documentary, not even worth mentioning, that tries to," Then I saw she shaded Anthony Bourdain about, how he passed away and, he took his own life. So she was like, he didn't like anyone, not even himself. Bitch. And then her lawyer said she should never be shamed or never be vilified or whatever for using the N word in context.
For a white person, it's never in context. I'm just gonna put that out there. For a
Context,
white
like
person, it's never in context.
we always and and you say that, and we always know the context in which they're trying to use it,
Their
which they
racism.
I'm just like, "Okay, so I don't know how successful this comeback will be, but I'm sure there's a crowd out there that will embrace her and love her, and we know that we're living in a grifty age for some people, so I'm sure she's gonna come on and try to make the grift, and I'm sure she'll be cooking a dinner for the Rose Garden Club anytime soon, you
I
know?"
will say I have not heard it on my social media platforms, so even as the news is getting out there, it has not fully gained traction yet for us to be having the conversation about Paula Deen, which lets me know that she's trying to make a comeback, but her comeback hasn't hit the level where we feel the need to comment and we feel the need to drag her yet.
Yeah, and I'm sure if this does pick up, it was in Entertainment Weekly, so I'm
Yeah.
sure if this does pick up and go places, like I saw bits and pieces. The part about Anthony Bourdain I saw in once. It
Mhm.
she is in the media rounds because I saw him in
Yeah.
several different media places. Yeah, so when it does happen, we don't have to talk about because we've already discussed
Yeah.
it. I'm just
We
saying
we
that.
good. We good.
And Jillian Michaels standing 10 toes down on her stupidity, also talking about context and, her story about how most people did not own slaves, so therefore, why are we still talking about it? Slavery and racism didn't exist. Most people were not racist, blah, 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 blah.
I just wanna
Then she
say,
just went on CNN to continue to be loud, proud, and wrong.
Jillian Michaels
And I hate the fact she has a
is
black kid. Spouting
yes,
is
I was just
bullshit.
about to say, she is currently raising a, black child that she adopted from Haiti. And I have to put that out there because this is the reason why there are people who state that that there should be requirements of cultural classes for people who want to adopt children outside of their culture.
Look, she's not Sandra Bullock or Charlize Theron, okay? I said Sandra Bullock, Charlize Theron, she is not.
Yeah, definitely not. But there is a lot of them who adopt us and never make sure that their children are connected to their culture. Like they raise them like it's not going to become a problem. And then they come out with these racist, I want to say, ideologies and microaggressions that are detrimental to the children that they're raising. Like, how are you raising a Black child with this mindset that we're being villainized and we should not be villainized because only 2% of the white population actually owns slaves? Do you realize that 2% owned it, but every single person participated in it in some way, shape, or form? That they think of the fact that the North abolished slavery way before the South, and yet their factory industry benefited off of the backs of slaves picking that cotton in the fields. Or the fact that the North was part of the slave trade. That's where the slave traders were. The slave traders were in the North and the slave owners were in the South
because they didn't have the ports in the North.
because they didn't have the ports.
Philadelphia, the only one was Charleston, and all those slaves
Yeah.
were coming in through Charleston.
They
So,
didn't have the ports to, transport. So yeah, so they dropped them off and then they transport them down to. Please stop. Like, I mean, it is. We're going back to the mediocre. It is not my problem that you are mediocre. It should not be my problem that your intelligence is on a mediocre level. That you are basic in your intelligence. That you lack critical thinking skills to make connections in history, historical events, and how they're all connected. That is basic intelligence. On you focus on the fact I should not feel guilty for that. The only reason why you would feel guilty is because you're racist. Racist people feel guilty when we bring up slavery in front of them. That's who would feel guilty because people who are anti-racist would have the mindset of that ain't me. My people was off the chain, but I don't live like that. But when you feel guilty, when you hear about what your ancestors did to my people, that means that you're racist. You have racist tendencies and thought process. You think along those lines because why would you feel guilt if it's not you? It got nothing to do with you. You don't think along those lines. Why would you feel guilt? Why would you be
because
guilty about any of
it
that?
goes to that whole thing of we're all American, and you want to believe that America and it comes back to this whole new neo-nativism that we'll call it, where you don't want America, you don't wanna realize this was the country that was the melting pot.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to say it was a melting pot, it wasn't because as soon as anyone came here, all the immigrants came here, you wanted to try to force assimilation down their
Yeah.
throat. You wanted to rid them of their own culture
Culture.
and try to force them to be American
Mhm.
and whatever that meant. And so I think when it comes to, like you said, adopting Black children, we all need homes, and I get it. But you should have to teach them their culture because, like I told a friend who's white, I can go anywhere in this country and fit in. I know all about your culture. I know all about America, but what do
Yep.
you know about mine besides Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks? And they couldn't answer that question. I said, the reason why Black history is taught is because we do have a history beyond slavery.
Yes.
Slavery is a part of our history, might be the foundation of our history, but it's not the only part of our history.
It's not majority of our history when we
And
really
so
the amount of stuff we have accomplished.
I'm just like, I'm with you. Your guilt says a lot, doth do protest too much, whatever. Following up on a story that we talked about last show, I just wanted to make sure we follow up on this. Lil Nas X, it has come out that he was not high. He suffered a psychotic break. So, I agree with you to this extent, and I didn't say much about it when you said it, but I think that he may have been illness, and I will pay closer attention to his cries for help, and I hope that he truly gets the help that he needs.
Yeah.
I don't think jail is what he needs.
No, it's
Of
not.
course, they're still trying to, as far as I heard, the charges have not been dropped. They're still trying to go through with the prosecution and all that shit. So again, I'm thinking if Little Nas X was not who he was, then this would be a non-issue, especially with
Mhm.
it coming to light that he wasn't high. But speaking of Jill, what you think about Young Thug? Snitches get stitches.
So, I literally just heard about this yesterday. So I
Mhm.
haven't really, like, gotten, like, the full gist. I just heard that, he's singing like a canary. Is that what's going on?
Okay, well, it depends on who you ask, because YSL has been fractured. Like, when
Mhm,
Gunna got out, he got out to, he got out because he copped a plea. So they said when he copped a plea, Young Thug was turning the whole crew against him, talking about he was a snitch. So and I think Gunna did some time. So he said he not a snitch because he named or he dimed on a person who shot Lil Wayne on his tour way back in 2015 when Lil Wayne could put together 2 words. Now he can barely put together half a word, but that's neither here nor there. Drug dealer music versus drug user music, but different
mhm,
story. So even the dude who he named said, "Well, it's not snitching, that's within the realm." You naming a name, that's snitching. But,
mhm.
so some of his crew say it wasn't snitching, he was just doing what he had to do when he's called in a room with them people. Get your ass a lawyer and shut the fuck up. But anyway, and then some people who used to be associated with YSL said he was snitching. And then but every time he had a phone call, I'm like, "Did you not think those shits were being recorded? Like, you've been there long enough to know that they recording all your phone calls, so you just sitting there talking about everybody, Future, Drake, Kendrick." And, I hold a special place in my heart for Kendrick Lamar Duckworth. And he talking about made it seem like Kendrick owed him something because at one time, he was the main feature on a lot. Like Kendrick ain't calling me like that. Like, why he gotta call you? Like, you need him obviously more than he needs you. And Kendrick talking about, well, Drake, well, he told you why Drake was always in Atlanta. Drake would go to the main whoever was hot at the moment to feature on theirs or to get them on his shit.
Mhm.
And it's just like, yeah. So I'm going to say that if he wasn't full on snitching, he was snitch adjacent. And he showed a lack of, as my mom would say, discern or judgment in his phone conversations. Cause fool, everybody and they mama know that they record those
Everything.
phone calls. So, but I also didn't know he was dating Mariah the Scientist, which.
Say that I am sick and tired of how diluted the idea of snitching has become. It's like the hip hop world no longer goes on this on the rules
These
of
new
being a
Negroes don't have a code.
yeah, there it goes. There's no code. But also on if you are a criminal, and you do criminal activity, okay? It's always with the possibility that someone's gonna turn on you. Okay? It's always with the possibility that someone's gonna turn on you. If you have this idea that no one's gonna turn on you, then you're an idiot. You don't need to be a criminal. But it was also on you just didn't tell people's business, right? But I feel like nowadays when they snitch, they kind of like it's not even like real, like, good stuff, like, damn. It's more on their whining, if that makes sense, like, they're whining in their snitching, right? Like, what we used to be to say, like, "No snitching," like, the whole statement, like, "Snitches get stitches," like, that was, like, some real stuff, like, some real stuff, like, that was gonna destroy, like, communities stuff, okay? Like, whole families were gonna be hit hard by that. And I feel like now it's more like I'm like like whining, like you just whining all the time, like you complaining about stuff, and people be like, "Why are you snitching?" I be like, "They not snitching, they complaining, they're complaining," and they mentioning stuff, and we be like, "The only person that's gonna get hit with that is the person they talking about." It's the person they telling on. They're not destroying communities. They're not destroying families. Like they destroying one person. Like that's not what snitching is. That's not what snitching is. And so, I that's why I say like it's been diluted. It's been diluted from what it used to be about. And so, but from what I hear, it's been very entertaining. So keep it coming, young thug.
Like, so speaking of entertaining, one of the people that he didn't snitch, obviously, but he was having a conversation about Future,
Mhm.
basically, and he was respectful,
Mhm.
but said that Future probably need to be more about his kids than he was about them bitches.
Yes.
And so I like how he low key called him a deadbeat dad because he
Cause
is.
you come on now. He has one famous child. He has one famous child. And the fact that everybody can look and be like, you can't even take care of the one famous child. Like the rest of your baby mamas are nobodies, basically. And your one famous child, you can't even pretend like you playing some type of role in that child's life. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm talking about Lil Future, his son that he had with Sierra, or that Sierra had. And then you lost to someone who ended up being a great dad to your son, to the
And
point where your son calls him dad.
thank you. And not only that, like, and so this is, this goes into one of my favorite things that I love to hate. Every time Russell Wilson says something about Future, not that big, not
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
gonna call him Future and Deadbeat. So
Future and deadbeat.
every time he says something about Future, that ain't your son. Why you doing this? Need I remind you that Russell has been in that kid's life since he was what,
9
3 months, 6
months.
months, 9 months. That has truly been his father. He came in and he did something that a lot of men don't do, is he came in and he raised another he fell in love with a woman who had a child. He loved that woman and her child. He never made any distinction about that
Mhm.
child. He may not it may not have been his seed that created that child,
But that's his child.
but that's his child. He is responsible for every growing moment in his life. So he didn't create him biologically, but he created him as into helping him be the young man and the human being that he is. He molded and shaped that kid. And every time Future would say something publicly, it was to try to shame and malign and embarrass and play the victim, but it was never about his son. It was
Never.
never about what was in the best interest of his son. It's just, and I'm sorry, I didn't know when stepping up and being a man and taking care of a kid made you a simp. Like, I hate that shit. And so now his name is officially Future Wilson.
Future will burn. Like he still has the last name of, Big Future.
And
But now it's added on to the point where if he wants to just kinda leave that as like a middle name kinda thing, he can, and he can just go by Future Wilson because Wilson is the last name that's there.
and so and people say he adopted him. I'm like, probably. Did Future give up his parental rights? Probably.
He didn't. People are saying that Sierra may have asked for permission, but they're saying because she didn't take his name off. So Wilburn, which is what Future's actual last name is, because Future is not his first name even, that Wilburn is still there. It is still part of Lil Future's name. And so with that, she didn't have to actually ask permission to include an additional name, is what they're saying. So she just added Wilson to his last name, and then Future has the choice on deciding how he wants to now be addressed as. If he wants to go by Wilburn Wilson or if he just wants to go by Future Wilson. It's ultimately up to him. And this kid is at the age where I am sure he had a full choice on what he wanted to do. They definitely had to have a conversation with him first. And I I have always been a person who feels that it's more about who raises you than where you got your DNA from. And I think we put too much emphasis on DNA and not enough on who is raising us to be the human beings that we are. It's kind of like when people be like, I never knew my father, and that's the reason why I am where I am. And I'd be like, "No, like, don't do that to the person who actually stayed and raised you." Like, I give full credit to my mother because my mother raised me, and every accomplishment that I've ever had in life, my mother can brag about that. My mother can, because she raised me to the point where I was able to have those accomplishments. She gets full 100% credit for everything. I give no credit, and I don't say that I missed out on it. And I understand, people are different. I get it, but for me, I never have ever felt like I missed out just because my mother was a single parent raising me by herself. Like I never got the feeling of missing, my dad in raising. Like I gave full credit to my mother. Anything that happened, my mother was always there. Like she was the main person. I always say she's the most important person in my life. Can't nobody touch my mother. Don't mess with my mother. Okay. I go full force on you. If you mess with my mother, I don't play about my mama. Okay. Now that dude, you go ahead and you mess with him as much as you want. Okay. but don't mess with my mama. Don't mess with my mama. And so when I think it's jealousy on them calling Russell Wilson a simp. I think because people say this and I love when men are saying this in their commentary. When men say that they wanted Sierra to be the hoe that they have always viewed baby mamas to be. They wanted her to never upgrade. It irks their soul. It hurts their feelings that she upgraded, that she is not Future's baby mama, that they can't refer to her as Future baby mama because that's not the final title that she earned. She earned the title of wife, and that irks their soul that she earned, and then she earned the title of wife. It's been 9 years, and they're still going strong.
And I think for them to say that they don't realize who she is, they mistook the image of Sierra for
Mhm.
the real person of
For
Sierra,
who
not
she is as a
knowing her
person.
upbringing and all of that kind of
Mhm.
and so,
Yeah.
but kudos, that's his
Yeah.
daddy, that's his real
Celebration.
father, that's who he is, and kinda
Definitely.
sticking along the lines of what, we have Kelly Price crashed the fuck out because, on social media, she was called fat and something and I'm sure they
Did you did you see the outfit? I just Eddie, I just wanna I feel like it's an important question, Eddie. I just wanna know, did you see the
let's skip over that. I mean, okay, let me
No,
put
we can't. It's an important part of the story.
it is, and, I'm sure that there were some really not so flattering comments about her wardrobe choices. And let me say this, I'm all for body positivity and being who you are and loving your body, but I also believe that there's some things you should never wear no matter what your
Just
size
because it's
is.
made in your size don't mean you
Thank you.
should wear it.
Some things really skinny people should not wear. I'm just saying.
Yes.
But I let me say this. I will say the crash out went a little overboard. I did agree with the part where she said that we can be cruel. Social media can be cruel. We can be cruel to each other, but also, and that's just given. It's given. We
I'm
can't be cruel.
sorry, it's social media. Get off the fucking social media then. Get off social media
And
if
that was
you
the next part I was gonna say is, again, but why are you letting your feelings be dictated by social media? You know how it is.
strangers who don't know you.
And that is the reason why a lot of celebrities have just unless they have burner accounts, they have really just turned their social media into brand marketing.
Mhm.
'Cause, people are going to say what they're going to say, and they're not always going to be nice about it. So, you had a point with your crash out about people can we know the keyboard warriors. We know that they can be cruel. We know that sometimes our jokes, the community jokes can go too far.
Mhm.
But the way you took it to play into the stereotypes of what they think about us, and let me just say, anti-Blackness is real, and from certain people you expect it, but it disheartens me when it comes
Must.
from us. And again, we're not a homogenous people. We don't all get along. We all have different views and opinions and all this kind of stuff. But what I can say is that for you to make it seem like every Black person in the world is against you, or every Black woman in the world is talking bad about you, or, that we're all trash, that is what pissed me off was just the whole generalization and then you speaking like you not one of us. Because again, when the rubber hits the road and some shit happens and you realize who you are, the first people you gonna come running back to and expect to have your back is who?
Us. I will say that we're not homogenous. We're not all the same. I get that. But we're a family at the end of the day, okay? And you don't disparage family to strangers. You just there are just certain things that we just do not do to family. And so when you wore that outfit, okay? And I'm a turn into one of those people that I guess she was talking about. I've always had the mindset that the first thing I do before I walk out my home is I look in the mirror. And I'm trying to be serious.
Pretty serious. I got you.
I'm trying I look in the mirror, okay? And there are some times where I have to literally run and find another shirt to wear because the shirt that I put on that I was like, "Okay, I think it's gonna be good." I look in the mirror and I was like, "Ooh, it doesn't look good." And so, I don't care, like, when you have, like, a weird body shape, you have to be more conscious of, like, the things that you wear, all right, and what you put on. And I know that you looked in that mirror because whatever dressing room that you were in before you got on that stage, they got a full length mirror. They do. And I know I know you saw that that outfit was not for you. That outfit was not for you. Now, people could have been a little mean about it, all right? But I bet you majority of people was like, "Baby, you know that shirt was too tight. You know those shoes were too big. And you know that jacket was too large." Like, I know that there were people that was trying to help you out. And I feel that most of us was like, "Ma'am, girl, what are you wearing?" Like, that was kinda like, "What are you wearing?" Like, who let you walk out the dressing room looking like that?
Like,
You
tell
need to
me
fire them, because that's what most of them was saying. They were like, "Yo, you need to fire your stylist, and if you the one that styled yourself,
you need to hire a
you need
stylist.
to hire somebody to help you out,
Tell
okay?"
me you don't have a stylist without telling me you don't have a stylist.
Exactly, right? And so I'm like, like, why are you looking in the mirror and you was like, "This is cute. I got this on lock." You know you was lying to yourself. You know you were. And that's not me being mean because I'm like, sometimes you wear certain things and I just be like, "Ooh, my stomach, I need to wear something a little looser because this pants just don't feel comfortable right where it's at." And so for you to go on and lump all Black women together, and another thing that people were saying, and I didn't watch this, right? But they said that Kelly Price has never been a nice person. She's never been a nice person. She has been a bully. Right. And they talk about when she was on the reality show with a whole bunch of other divas and how she acted. They were like, that's the reason why people are treating you the way that they are now, is because you was acting a fool when you was on that reality show. And they were like, "How you not a nice person. So you can't expect us to not drag you when if it was you, you'd been dragging the other person because she has shown herself to be that type of person." So then you drag all of us down and you talk about the family like that? Tell me you MAGA without telling me you MAGA.
Hmm.
Tell me you a coon without telling me you a coon.
Like I said, when the rubber hits the road and the shit happens and you
And we're
need
not gonna be there, and then you know what she's gonna do? She's gonna talk about us even more because we're not gonna step up to defend her when she needs us to defend her, when they turn their backs on her. And that's what I always say about people in our community who want to be closer to that. Because I'm like, when shit hits the fan, you're going to need us, and then you're gonna be all up in your feelings when we don't support you because we learned from the fact that you disparaged us, you talked about us, and you dragged us in public among strangers. You don't drag us in front of strangers. I'm sorry.
mm,
Like,
the
you don't. And Kelly, you by yourself. You by yourself.
and, and so I can't disagree, and I haven't been to Kelly. I think she maybe had a couple songs, maybe her first album, but I really haven't been a big Kelly Price fan, and I quite honestly didn't even realize she was still making music or had been on a reality show until all of this
And
had popped off.
you also can't be a full diva and survive. Like, Imma say this, there is only one diva who is very, like, kinda standoffish, who has survived as the diva that she is with the voice that she has, and that's Mariah Carey.
And she came out the Luna Diva, okay?
Yeah, and every other person, when they have shown themselves to have a bad attitude, look at their career. Their career has not survived their bad attitude, the disrespect. It hasn't. And I'm not saying that Mariah Carey has a bad attitude. I think that she's just I'm not wasting my time on people that's not on my level. Like, I think that's the attitude that
She's just
Mariah has,
bougie.
and she deserves it. She deserves it because that woman is next level talent, right? But that's just her thing. She's just like, "You're not on my level, so I don't know you," right? But you have a voice, and then you want to disparage your fan base, because let's be honest, we are the ones that support you and celebrate your voice and your talent. Look at the other ones where their career is for when they have turned their backs on their main fans.
Well, maybe she thinks Scandal sells, because Cracker Barrel, they've reinstated their Uncle Whatever logo with their money. A&E, American Eagle, their stock went up on the heels of the Sydney Sweeney scandal, but I was asking myself, was it the
It's
Sydney S
Kelsey.
the Sweeney was it the Sydney
Sydney Sweeney?
scandal, or was it the fact that they released the Travis Kelce line, around the same time or in the middle to LN, so or announced the deal with Travis Kelce,
The media, I think it was.
the media hype and how the media turned her into a darling and a victim?
Yes, and I think it was because one you I'll say what I say about, Taylor Swift when we get to that. But, the one thing is that she has done very, very well on playing herself to be a teenage victim for her whole entire time being a 35-year-old woman. And so all of that, the engagement, her new CD, as well as his brand deal with, American Eagle, all of that plays a role in their stocks going up.
So but yeah, and so, taking that to heart, congratulations, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce are engaged now, for those of you who've been living under a rock and did not know, a massive ring that she has on her finger, and I guess it fits, it's an old-fashioned type of diamond ring, so, I wish them the very best. If I don't if I sound ambivalent, it's not that I'm not a fan of either, I am, it's just I hope it lasts, but, I've always said Taylor Swift is a hell of a songwriter, and she can write a song and, and she doesn't necessarily have the best singing voice, but and she puts on the show. I've seen her show and bits of her show, and the showmanship is there. So I will say that. So I
Wanna say, Imma be a little mean girl because, she does it very well, so I'm gonna take a, page out of her book on the fact that I love the fact that her PR relationship is lasting as long as it is, and I hope it lasts for the rest of her life.
do you think they're gonna get married?
I hope that she gets children out of this PR relationship that she's in because I don't care what nobody says. I don't believe it, but congratulations.
Do you think they're gonna actually make it down the aisle?
I do. I think one thing that Taylor Swift does better than any artist in our time is sell her brand. And her brand, here's the reason why she's gonna make it down the aisle and she's gonna marry that man. Because Taylor Swift, when I say her teenage victimhood, Taylor Swift has been selling the image of her being this awkward, down to earth girl next door who has never gotten the star quarterback. And now she has. And yeah, I know he's not a quarterback, but
I get
he
what you're saying, the
yeah,
star
he fits
football
the
player.
image of she got the football player. And she has always sold this idea that she was never the girl to get the football player, even though she's fucking blonde hair. Like she fits the fucking image of American beauty. And she never could get the football player. You got everybody else, but you couldn't get the football player. And that is the reason why I continue to tell people I don't believe in it. That is the reason why I don't believe in it because it matches what she's never been able to get. It solidifies the persona that she has sold us for over a decade. Solidifies that persona that she has sold us. On her getting Travis Kelce, who was at his prime in popularity, and then the fact that she makes money off of this, and she will continue to make money because she's great at that. She's fantastic at that. I wish I had her level. You know what? I'll never get it because 'cause I'm not white, but congratulations. Like, no, I think that they're gonna get married. I don't know about the kids, but I would hope that she has children. I don't know if she would want to have kids because I think that would put a pause on her career, the trajectory that she has set for herself. She wouldn't be able to play as much of, her persona as she does now. But yeah, I think the boxes are being checked and it's look, that's a skill. That is a skill. That woman is amazing at that. I wish I had that level. In my next life, I mean, I always want to be born black. But I feel like sometimes, just for like a minute or so, the mindset come in that like I would love to be born a mediocre white woman. Not a man. Not a man. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because, but I want to be born a mediocre white woman because when I tell you they slip through the cracks every single time, like you are the richest musical artist in the world and you can't sing and you can't dance. How are you richer than Beyonce and you can't sing and you can't dance? And you have no fashion sense. How? Please, please. There is no way her lyrics gets her to I digress. I'm sorry. Let's move on. I just wanna say, for all her fans, it will never be you. Congratulations to her. But for all her fans that think that one day it could be me, it will never be you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The US Open is going on right now, and I think the thing that's going to label this sports report is bad sportsmanship. It started with the US Open. Jelena Ostapenko lost to Taylor Townsend, who is Black. And there's something, and what started it, it was like a net point error. So what that is when the ball just barely skims the net and it looks like it's not gonna go over, but it does go over and it falls over. The person who hit it is supposed to say, I'm sorry, like an unwritten rule. It's just a force of luck. And in all my years of tennis, I never knew that. But again, I'm not a professional tennis player. I mean, me and getting my lessons and all that, when that's happened, we never said sorry. I've always just said good shot, lucky shot, whatever, you know. But so then Ostapenko, who, if you can't tell by her name, is not Black. She's not American. She makes it worse by getting into Taylor Townsend, the Black tennis player, by saying she should have apologized. It shows a lack of class, a lack of education, a lack of basically couth, just every other microaggression you can lobby at a Black woman, basically saying that she only did it because she was in New York, basically playing her home tournament, but she wants to see how she gonna act out in them streets. I'm like, baby, we take enough bullshit from our own. We is not taking that bullshit from somebody who, like you said, family. And for those of you that don't know, yes, we are aware that America is a shit show, but it is our shit show. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, ride or die, we gonna defend our shit show. It's ours to it's ours to defend, it's ours to talk about. So what I mean by that is, look, like I said, we take enough from our own. We not gonna do that. You not gonna come into our house talking about our people with that bullshit. And so Naomi Osaka, God bless her, just said the quiet part out loud. She said, yeah. She said, I wouldn't apologize. I mean, you know, we know what it is, but it goes deeper than that. It was the microaggressions. You said the worst 2 things you can say to and about a Black woman. You're uneducated and you're classless.
Mhm.
So I applaud Taylor for the way she handled it. I think she became one of America's tennis sweethearts, and she did have people rooting for her. She just barely missed making it to the quarterfinals, and she is the #1 doubles player in the world. And unfortunately, they did lose the championship for the U.S. Open, her and her doubles partner. But she went out there unbothered, had her, I forgot what it was called, her honeydew drink, which is an alcoholic drink, on that final press conference. She was just great, and the more I find out about her, the
Mhm.
more I cheer for her. I've added to my list, and so when it comes to tennis, I go by the ESA I'm here for anybody who's Black and anybody who's American, and
Yes.
so a lot of Black American tennis players, thank you, Serena and Venus, you cannot say,
Yeah.
especially in women's game, Coco, Taylor, gosh, Sloane, they're all getting more press and pub. And there's another one, I can't remember her name. I learned about her at Wimbledon. She has a great game, a power game. So I'm here for anybody who's Black and anybody who's American. I'm cheering them on. And I think that just started the whole poor sportsmanship, and it's like, would you have done that if Taylor wasn't Black? And my answer is undoubtedly, unequivocally no,
'Cause they don't challenge their own.
you know?
They don't challenge their own, and they don't challenge people who bow down to them.
And I think she realized I also think she found out very quickly she was in the wrong place to say that, because when it comes to our sports, and I tell people, most of the time in this country, our great equalizer is the sport. And most of the time when we go to a sporting event, all of this doesn't matter. It's team. You're cheering for your team. You're rooting for your team. And especially when it comes to our sense of, I hate saying this word now because it's been so, like you said, diluted, bastardized, whatever you want to call it, our sense of patriotism. And for
Mhm.
you to come to America and for you to denigrate an American player on her home court over something that was so minute, something that is like a gentleman's rule of the game, that's not even an official rule or something of the game, and the way you did it and the way you went about it and the way she handled it, like she wasn't paying you any smoke, any attention, any energy. I think it made it worse for her.
It is the and I can't think of another great, like, historical event that goes towards this mindset. but it's kinda like the Till effect. I keep doing this. Because when they say that kinda stuff, it is with the mindset that probably in their country, as small of, because 'cause we're everywhere, right? So in their country or in Europe, they adhere to white Europeans, right? Their presence is not as strong in their European countries as it is in America. So when they encounter an American, because I think back when, going over this story, I think back to Coco, that European tennis player.
Sabalenka?
Yeah. And so I think back to the fact of like, it's kind of like we should be stepping to the side for them as they walk. Like we're walking towards each other on a sidewalk, and we should always be the ones that step to the side, move out of their way. And it's kind of like when she went up to her and she said that she's classless and she has no education. It was like, you gonna take this, what I'm telling you, because of who I am and how it runs in Europe, you're beneath me in a way, right? Without me telling you, because to say that a woman and a black woman is classless is to say that she's inferior to you. She's
And
not on your level. To say that a black American woman is uneducated lets me know you don't know our culture. And I don't mean black culture. I mean American culture. Because you don't know that we're the most educated group of people in this country. Okay. And so I think that's what it is that she went up thinking that she was going to take it because they're more likely to take that kind of stuff and to excuse it in their country. Like we, black people, are more likely to excuse that kind of stuff in their country in Europe.
mhm.
Whichever country you go to in Europe, they're more likely to excuse that stuff in Europe, to downplay it. And here, we just like, downplay what? Let you get away with what? Like, don't play with us. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Because I see it like, I feel like even now when we go to Europe, they're trying to test us. Because they also try to treat us the way that they treat their black population. And they have to learn at the same time. That's not what we playing. Because at the end of the day, I'm a black American. I'm not black European. Don't play up in my face. And so I think that, definitely, because it just, as soon as I saw it, I was like, ooh, that reminded me of that Coco situation when she acted like Coco definitely shouldn't have won. Like, she talked about it. She talked about Coco like Coco was beneath her. She was inferior. And how dare this inferior woman beat me? Okay.
And you
Yeah.
see more coming from those what used to be the Eastern Bloc European
Where
countries,
we're
you
less likely to be.
yeah, and so in the way and I think the way she doubled down on it like it was the most horrible thing, like, "How dare she not apologize to me?" and all this other kinda stuff, and it was just the height of bad sportsmanship,
Yeah.
and I think
I agree.
it had the opposite effect. So,
Naomi and Coco, did you see that?
I did was it was a tough match. I think I realistically probably was leaning more towards Coco, but I said whoever won, that's who I was gonna go with. And then
Mhm.
when Naomi lost to Asamova, who's also an American, I was going for Asamova, and then Sabalenka ended up winning the US Open, so,
Oh.
for the women. But then also at the US Open, speaking of those Eastern Bloc countries, a Polish CEO from Poland stole a kid's ball, like, just stole it. The guy was handing it to the kid, and he
Definitely to the kid.
took it, talking about he should have been faster. It makes you stronger. It builds character. Like he just doubled down. Like, and I'm like, for almost a whole week, all his apologies were non-apologies, doubling down.
Mhm.
And then when the American internet did its thing, who is this? Who this? And they found out his name, his birthday, his company, with all that, and then
Mhm.
he finally issued a real apology. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with adults? He's a fucking child. And I'm like, I would hate to be your child because you that type of parent that suffering makes you stronger. Like, like, all I could think of was, God, what was, and I had the name of the show. What was that show that was on HBO with that family? Everybody loved it.
Succession?
Yes, that's all I thought about. I was like, you the dad from Succession. And all I kept thinking is your kids fucking hate you. You are the dad from Succession. They fucking hate you. So
It's like he said he's not giving his children any I feel like he would be the CEO where he would say he's not giving his children any of his money, and it's not because he wants to, like, teach them how to, stand on their own and everything like that. It's just because he's gonna be selfish in death. Like, and so he just wants to keep all his money, or he's gonna give it all to his significant other, to his wife, rather than distributing amongst his kids, because he's like, "Nah, you gonna figure this out," rather than wanting to, like, teach them how to stand on their own 2 feet.
And I was just like, "Wow." And so he was the
But did you see
king.
what the tennis player did?
Yeah. No, I didn't. I was
So,
looking.
so at first he didn't notice. That's why, like, when you look at the video, you see him, like, continuing to move on. Like, it didn't really click in his head on what the CEO did, even though, like, he handed the ball to the kid and then the CEO immediately, like, snatched it. It didn't click in his head because he was continuing to move. So finally somebody showed him, like, what happened. And so what he did was he invited the kid into the locker room, and he gave him a signed ball, and he gave him something else. I forgot what it was, but he gave him something else, like maybe a hat or something like that with his signature on it. And then what he did to make sure that the CEO couldn't make any money off of that ball is they say he signed 200 tennis balls and then passed them out to children. So, the more that's out there, the less money it would be worth. So he did it to, devalue the tennis ball that that CEO had stolen from the kid, but then gave the kid something else that he can keep just for himself.
And I love that, and that kinda leads us to the Phillies Karen, this bitch, at a Phillies game,
Go ahead.
this bitch. So Bader, who's the player for the Phillies, he hit a home run. He hit it high up into the stands. The stands, it wasn't a crowded part of the stands. It was kind of empty that night. Whatever. They were playing the Marlins, go figure. So anyway, dad goes over and he's in the one section. He goes over to the other section where the ball is, and the ball landed on the floor. The
Mhm.
ball landed on the ground. It didn't land in anybody's glove. There wasn't anybody directly sitting right in front of where the ball landed. It was like an empty section. People were going to get the ball. The dad went and got the ball. He took it and gave it back to his son. Went back over to his section, which was just one section over, gave it to his son. Put it in his son's glove. Kid was excited. Got a home run ball at Phillies game. I got a Yankees, an Aaron Judge hit home run ball. So I know how special that is. And I got it
Ace.
at an Astros game, okay? And y'all know
Woo!
I love the Yankees. So as an
Yeah.
adult, you know, and actually someone gave it to me. Is an Astros fan who caught it and they knew I was a Yankees fan. He turned around, they're like, and I was like, and I wasn't expecting it because fuck, it's an Aaron Judge home run. And they gave it to me, and I was like, "Oh my god, so that's people being nice." This
Mhm.
bitch wasn't that person. She went over there, accosted the dad. That means she harassed him. I'm sorry, people. And she was just talking, yakking, yakking. And I guess the dad, he did the right thing. He didn't he let the bitch talk. I think they jawed back and forth for a moment. Ultimately, he took the ball out of his kid's glove and just gave it to her and told her to go on her way. And then she went smiling like she did something because she had this baseball that she stole from a fucking kid.
Mhm.
Philly. Why you gonna do this shit in Philly? Everybody knows Philly has the most brutal fucking sports fan in the world.
Full on, no matter the sport, the word.
And she was a Phillies fan. So then the marketing people that they have who go around throwing out swag and stuff
Mhm.
like that, one of them. And everybody in the stadium saw this shit because they started booing her and all this stuff. So the Marlins, who was the away team, they sent up some swag to him, bobbleheads and whatever. They gave the
Mhm.
little kids some swag. And then the Phillies, they had him come down. He met the dude who hit the home run. The dude gave him a bat and other stuff and got a tour and all this shit. So this bitch still walking around thinking she doing something. They said they booed her so bad she had to leave. So the internet did its thing, and it was like, imagine stealing a home run ball from a kid, thinking you did something, waking up the most hated person in America. Like I've never seen anything like that. And for everybody involved was of the paper and so I'm
Which is
just like,
usually how it goes.
but I'm like, you have the audacity to walk over and tell somebody that something they didn't take from you belonged to you because you were in that section and you were going over. Now, that's the case of first come, first serve. You should have been faster. That's where the
Mhm.
CEO should have had that mindset. But she literally thought nothing of it. And it's one thing if you just want to be an asshole to actually go over there and argue whatever. But then when she and the dad was just like, "Fuck it," and it turns out it was his kid's birthday, right? She
Really?
Yeah, so when he takes the ball and he's like, "It's okay, bud," and I think that was the most heartbreaking thing is everybody's watching him take this ball out of this kid's hand and give it to her just to shut her up and send her away and telling him it's going to be okay. They
Like,
didn't leave the
she
game.
walking like she about that life, man.
Yeah, so I'm just like, "What is up with all this fucking bad sportsmanship?"
Well, even like I said, like, one thing I'm liking is how the teams are reacting to this kind of stuff, right? Or how the tennis player reacted, where he was like, okay, when it was brought to my attention, I'm gonna go beyond where it was. I'm not just gonna give you a tennis ball, but I'm gonna give you something else of value to make you special. And the same thing with, the teams being like, okay, that's how you want to be, besides the fact that everybody's booing you. But now we're going to go beyond in order to make sure we put a smile back on this kid's face because you literally snatched the smile off of his face. So at least these athletes are responding in a positive way and they're doing something. They're addressing it in real time when this kind of stuff happens. I would say I would hope that people would learn from it, but we know people and people don't learn from it. Like they're still gonna do it. They're gonna do it because they're gonna want to be the first one to get away with it. I guess if that's kind of a thing. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Karen, Philly's Karen. I like that.
Yes, man. Our weekly W report, the Aces they haven't lost since they got their asses kicked 59 points to
Go Asia, go Asia.
Lynx, and they beat the Lynx the other night by 12 points, so I think they've
Woo!
now moved up into 2nd place. I told you, Becky don't play that. Becky
You did say last time. You said, nah, Becky about that
Becky
life.
cussed them out, like, she about that life, so, the playoffs will be starting soon.
Okay.
But our other girl, Angel, was suspended from Chicago, from the Shy, for comments detrimental to the team. She gave an interview, and you would think it was something truly horrible. All she did was say what everybody who's a fan of the W, anybody who's commented on the W, anybody. She said the quiet part out loud. She said Chicago, the organization as a whole, is not doing what it takes to win. They don't seem to be taking it, and I'm ad-libbing here, they don't seem to be taking it seriously enough, and that the reason why they can't attract top-notch free agents is because of that history. They fired Teresa Witherspoon after what, a year of being a head coach?
Didn't give her a chance to kinda get her foot, yeah.
Yeah, didn't give her a chance to kinda get her foot down to set her
Mhm.
footing. She says, "Doesn't seem like they're interested in rebuilding," and if you don't ever give the person a chance to fully rebuild and bring in the pieces that you need to rebuild, then you're always gonna be a bottom dweller, basically, and they suspended her for that, and so some people are like, "Well, she shouldn't have said it out loud," but I think she was putting them on notice because when her rookie contract is up, name me a team that is not gonna have an interest in a free
In
agent
taking her. And
Angel
that's part of what she said, because she was like, based on that, she would love her career to, stay in Chicago, and she would love, kinda like being an Asia Wilson, right? On, like,
build around me.
staying with the team and seeing the team grow and become successful while she's on the team, right? And she said, but looking at how it goes right now, that when her contract is up, she's gonna have to move on. That's kind of what she was saying, is that, I'm gonna have to move on if they're not willing to make the decisions that they need to make in order to make the team successful. So yes, I agree with that, because they be dogging Chicago. Like, you got star player on there, and Chicago never did what the Fever did, okay? Because when they got the number one draft pick with her level of popularity, they have based, whether we like it, we agree with it or not, they have based the popularity of that one player. They based their whole entire team around that, and they have seen growth. And Chicago, I feel, did not do that. They haven't fully based it around their popular players, or the most popular player that they have, which is Angel Reese. Like, we know, like, Angel Reese, she's bringing that popularity. and they haven't based it around making sure she's successful in a way. And so, yeah, until they're willing to do that, like you're gonna lose her. You're going to lose her. And like I heard like they just gave away their first round draft pick for a trade that has not benefited them. Instead of like even like the decisions that they're making behind the scenes is like outrageous. And they gave it to the Lynx who don't need it. They gave their first round draft pick to the Lynx.
The team who has run the who's been they've lost what? I think they lost to the Aces the other night, 6 total games the whole season.
Yeah. It's
So
yeah.
I was like, I mean, and when I saw that, I'm like, here's the thing. For someone who's as media savvy as Angel, you know these are conversations. And for those of you that don't know sports, unless you're just an idiot, most of the time when players start talking publicly like this, it's because they have not been heard privately. So I don't want you all to think, and I'm just assuming, okay, taking an educated guess, inferring, whatever you want to call it. I'm assuming she's had these conversations privately with management, with coaching. I'm sure she's not the only player on the team who feels like this. And you can look at some of the things that they're doing, and it's and the fever of taking advantage of having the number one pick. They had Aaliyah Boston, they had pieces in place and they're using those pieces. They've made some
Yeah.
moves to help, build, but they don't the sky, they don't seem to be very interested in doing that. So we will
They need to call up Indiana and be like, "Okay, so how did y'all do it so we can
they
rock
need
the
to
same
call
way?"
Dallas and trade for my girls, Amlubuke and Paige, but, or
But you
they
know
just
what? At the same time, I don't know if I'd want them in the sky. How they going about with Angel, I
So
wouldn't
I
want
was
them in the
I was just
sky.
thinking about they need to call and just but they would probably want Amaguke or I know Arike, I'm just gonna call her Arike, she went to Notre Dame, or and you damn sure not getting Paige, but so it's just touching on something we talked about last week. I was talking and it seems like more people are listening to the podcast than we thought. Anyway, because now I'm seeing articles, New York Times, Sports Illustrated, who have the same question I have, and they're addressing key who's had the better historic rookie season, Caitlin or Paige. And like I said, quietly, Paige is breaking Caitlin's rookie records. And you will never take away from the fact that Caitlin was the first to have set that record. You can never take that. Her name will always be in in the history books. But what I'm saying is, why is it so quiet? And we talked about it. We
Yeah, I
don't.
gotta say we talked about it last time, and the same. My opinion still stands on what it is. What I will say is that I said it last time, and I'll say it again. Paige is what they thought Caitlyn would be. Paige Beckers is what they thought Caitlin Clark would be, and they refuse to acknowledge that Caitlin Clark has not shown herself to be the type of player that they thought she was going to be. And Paige comes in, and they don't want to admit that they were wrong. And I'm not saying that she's not a good player, but I and I understand, I'm a little beginner in the watching of the sport. But I think that she's a good player. She can play. She's not great yet. And I think this off season, on what I've watched, when you're in off season, you practice and you practice on your weaknesses. What have they talked about? Where did they say my weakness? Because they talk about it, commentary, like, they talk about it. And you practice on, getting stronger and getting better so that they don't use it against you. And I think that just looking at her game, Caitlin Clark didn't do that. She didn't work on her weaknesses. And so she hasn't made herself stronger on the weaknesses. And that is the reason why, like, a lot of teams have been able to stop her in certain ways when she plays. And I think that that's the difference with other players who should be getting the attention that she gets, like Paige, is that you can clearly tell they work on their weaknesses when it's brought to their attention. They're working on that. And I think that that's something that I need Caitlin to do, is to work on her weak points in her off season. I mean, she's out, she's out now, but she definitely needs to. Do you think the groin injury was real?
I think I do because it's something
Okay.
that's been plaguing her all season, and groins are funny, funny things. It doesn't if you never let it fully heal, then I think the times that she came back, they probably tried to ru she or them tried to rush her back too early. So it's one of those weird things that you have to let fully heal before you can come back and play, and it's just like a it's how do I describe it? It's like when you pull a muscle in your back,
Mhm.
and you know
And then
how
you kinda get the ping, like, yeah.
that the slightest little thing can tweak it, and so
Mhm.
that's pretty much what the groin is or the hammy
Okay.
or whatever, so they shut her down for the rest of the season, so she's not gonna be in the
Can sh
play.
can she chill out in the locker room then?
Like, I
I need her to go.
think they like having her on the sidelines and, like, having her travel, and the people who paid the money to go to those games, they still get to see her, but generally, hurt players don't travel with the team, I will say that, but,
So, here's something that I need a predominantly Black league to do. She is rude and she's disrespectful, and I don't understand how it's mainly Black women and nobody's shut you down. Like, they letting you flow with your rudeness, and now granted, some of them, rude too, but they're letting you flow with your rudeness, and I'm not even talking about her own teammates because I understand, like, team is team, one band, one sound, but you be talking crazy to other, and they don't put you in a place, and I've seen it twice, and one time was with Dejanay Carrington, where Dejanay was like, "I'm not fucking playing with you. Like, don't talk crazy." And she learned really quickly with Dejanay when Dejanay shut her down immediately in public. And she didn't address her directly, but the message was partly towards Caitlin Clark. She's rude. Like, I'm not understanding the rudeness.
I'll say kinda like
She's
the
very
kinda
rude.
like the NBA, it is a predominantly Black player league, but who owns it? Who's running the league?
You
And
right.
I'm sure that it's kinda like the dad, you have to weigh the fire versus the smoke. Is it really worth all the fucking heat you will take from addressing that situation? You know how we do. We gonna do one or two things when you piss us off. We either gonna go in or we gonna shut down.
And we gonna get multiples. You right,
And
yeah,
so
because if you're gonna shut it down, it wouldn't be just one of them, it would be it would be literally be everybody on the court
yeah, so I
in a
think that they're
collective.
weighing that they don't want the fines, they don't wanna have to deal with the media issue, they don't wanna, because anytime something happens, she becomes the story, and I think they're trying their hardest to not make her the story,
Well, she's
and
making herself the story because you saw what she did with the cameraman, and I was just like, "It's did you see
I
the
see
camera?"
that.
So, she's on the sidelines, in plain clothes because you're not by that point, you're not playing at all, and the cameraman, he was walking, and he didn't see her, and so she's walking and they're both walking, towards each other, but they're facing opposite ways, so technically and he bumps into her, and so when he bumps in, he turns the camera, it doesn't hit her, but it kinda, like, swipes in front of her face, okay? And so, and he keeps going because he doesn't realize it because he's focused on what he's taping. Of course, she decides that she's going to follow him, tap him, and get all up in his face and, like, literally, like, she's berating him. And he's like, "Oh, sorry." Like, you can literally see him say, "Sorry, I didn't see you. I didn't see you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And she continues going after he said sorry 3 times, like, she's still berating him, and I'm just like, "It's not that serious, like, he didn't even hit you, like, he bumped into you, his body, but it was a tap, like, he didn't hit you at all, and he said sorry, like, just but no, like, she felt the need to, like, berate him, like, I just feel like in some ways she thinks she's more important than she is to the whole scheme of things, and that's not the first time that she's done that to a cameraman, you know, like, how she talks to the refs, I'll be like, "Y" yeah, it's just like
I'm
and
sure
that
she
brings
didn't.
bad attention, like, it's not good attention that she's getting, and it's not a good reputation, and once again, you're a good player. Like, I would think you would want to build up the repertoire where people would want to advocate for you. Yeah, you got the people in the front office who are advocating for you, sure, but they smile in your face and then they're dragging you behind your back. Like, that's gonna get bigger and bigger, and nobody's gonna like you, and that's not going to help her career and help the amount of things that she can achieve in the league, if
Going
that
to
makes any sense.
From my understanding, not many people like her, and that's even on her own team. And that was a conversation they had last year. And I
Yeah,
think this year they've just gotten better at realizing, okay, we're going to be professional
yeah,
about it. But I agree. I didn't see the incidents with the camera. I generally don't watch Fever games unless they're playing a team that I like, just because even though I love Aaliyah Boston and I just can't do it.
I
I
think it was
can't,
when she was playing the Wings with,
yeah.
when they were playing the Wings.
I can't sit there and listen to 40 to 2 hours of the Caitlyn show, and I don't wanna hear about the Caitlyn show even when she's not playing, so, like I said, you can't take away from her game, but that doesn't mean I have to sit and try to force myself to be a stan or anything like that, so, well, I think that does it for this episode of The Wind Down. Thank you for joining us, and until next time,